Hello, my name's Andres. I am the editor of this episode, and maybe even most of them, if not all, but that's a problem and conversation for another time. But this is an addendum to the episode made pretty much while I am editing the audio to say that the audio quality is decent enough. There, we recorded outside, so there is occasional plane sounds and dog sounds mostly, some children noises, some car noises. We are usually, if not, actually, we're entirely in the forefront of the audio, and I try to lessen that outer noise as much as I could, but I'm not exactly a whiz at audio editing yet. So, um, that to say, hopefully the quality is enough for you to hear both me and Eunice as much as possible. And it is a long episode. I'll put that at the beginning. So if you are going to just listen to it at your own time, I'd say there's the halfway point. The episode's split into two parts, and the halfway point is roughly at about an hour and 15-ish, and the total runtime is what, 3 hours on top of this like extra little minute addendum that I'm trying not to make too long. Point being, if you were to take a suggestion on how you should listen to it, I'd say stop halfway through unless you have the time to finish it all. Because, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where else to add to this other than enjoy or don't. I don't know. I guess I can't control your opinions. Okay.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Oh God.
Welcome back to the first ever episode of whatever this is going to be.
Yeah, it's gonna have a name.
We have no names
hopefully.
either. We're not going to introduce ourselves.
For sure.
You should just know who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the
Because
tone
we're
of
not
our
showing it
voices.
to strangers. This is the thing. Just because it's going in public, we're not showing it to strangers.
For sure.
I guess that's not true. Because the people that I'm showing it to don't know who you are.
Oh, so
And I'm assuming it's the other way around too. So maybe there should be. Does there have to be? What if we just address each other by name when we're going through, right? No,
I mean,
that's
weird. True, but it'd be like, okay, my name is Eunice. This is what my voice sounds like.
Eunice?
Eunice.
Why'd you falter on Eunice?
What do you mean? I didn't falter. Whatever. Anyway.
It's gotta be there.
It is. I know.
I'm Andres. Done.
That's
the intro. That's the intro. I hope you're fine with it.
To those people, to those 4 or 5 people that listen to this that don't know who Andres is, that is his voice. You're welcome. Anyways.
You got 4 or 5 people?
Hey, the goal is to get to double digits. So like 10
Actually,
plus.
We're pretty close to that. I think we're pretty. Interest-wise, we're like at 5. At least, no, not for me. Interest-wise, we're at 2 for me.
Interest is at 2. Most of my friend group was like willing, but I'm like, okay, your willingness to hear it is one thing. You actually listening to it is another. But what we're gonna actually talk about today is 2 2 books that we decided, since nobody likes to read and we have no friends, that we need to... You're not supposed to laugh. Anyways.
It's true though.
I'm just kidding. To people who are listening, you guys are our friends and also are literate, so you're welcome.
Did you insult them and then compliment them?
No.
Point being, this is just a recorded book club. It's all it is.
Pretty much.
Yep. Mm-hmm. How'd it start? I don't remember.
I actually don't. I think
it started.
We started listening to too many podcasts with books in them.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
You're going to Mike Schumer. That's what planted this entire idea.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so our 2 books, yes. And I guess the format that we're gonna try to do is a difficult book and then an easy book.
Yeah, easy read and more. I don't know, how long did it take you to do Cicero? I mean, spoilers anyways. How long did it take you to do on duty / on obligation / the Officiis?
Well, I actually technically only read on duty's part because the on obligations intro, I was like, they're gonna tell me what it's about and I don't want to read that.
Oh yeah, the idea is yes, any book that requires you to read the intro, that's what we'll consider the hard book.
That's also true. That's a good point.
Like that's a scholarly quote unquote book. Yeah.
If it has references. Then...
If it's meant for you to read a section of it and then go to the intro because that's where the translator's talking about what you're supposed to know or not know, that's what we'll consider a hard book. Or a version of it.
A version of it, for sure. It took me more than I would like to say. But,
So you didn't read 500 pages in 2 days?
It was like 6, huh? I think it's because I had to think about what I was reading, whereas like in the other easier book,
You're just reading
it was just
You're
reading, and
absorbing
like
it.
my brain comprehends regular
Right.
English. So this one I have to make sense of like what they're saying in the way they're saying it, and also actually making sense of the points that they're trying to make, and making it like form a coherent kind of narrative in my brain. Whereas like the other book was just like, all right, we're just gonna read this. This is fun.
Right.
I
That's how
want
we're
to see how it ends.
that's how we're defining it. That's how we're
Right.
defining hard book and easy book.
Okay, cool.
Thinking versus thinking less.
Thinking versus thinking less. Exactly. Because thinking is hard. Where's my phone? Anyways,
I know where mine is.
I know.
Did you do it now? Okay.
Cool. Random intermission. Anyways, the book that I chose, I need to look up because I don't remember the name.
Oh yeah. So what do you mean you don't remember? Oh, the author. I don't remember the name of it. Actually, I don't know if I ever learned it, which is on purpose, I guess. It's a very meta thing.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, what are you excited when you? Oh, never mind. Let's ignore that. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is a book that I chose, written by V.E. Schwab.
Right. Schwab.
However, that may be
What?
said. I think it's Schwab.
SCHW, right?
Right.
Schwab.
Schwab.
Yeah, some German descent, probably. Something
perhaps
along those lines.
Yes. And Andres, you chose.
The Officiis. We that's what we're covering. 2 books every episode. Hopefully, it's not supposed to be longer than. I don't know. There's no time frame. It doesn't matter. It's until we're done talking.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair.
Okay. So the other form of formatting. The other format is whoever picks the book does not lead the discussion on it. Even though the discussion will eventually just go into tangents. It's going to happen.
Pretty much.
I've accepted it. So, for instance, illness. We'll talk about illness. We'll talk about Elnies. We'll talk about the Officiis. And I'm going to talk about Addie LaRue. And I guess we could start with that. We could just jump right into Addie LaRue.
Okay.
Let's start with the simplest question. Why did you choose Addie LaRue?
What do you mean?
Why did you choose her? Was it just Addie LaRue? Look at that. It's on my library.
My library. So yeah. Okay, I think I've mentioned that I enjoy using Libby. From the library books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was one of those days where I was like, I just need to read more, so I'm gonna go through the currently available now like audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to be the more recent ones that the library has purchased.
Mm.
So they tend to be either like the more trending or like quote unquote good books. So I thought it had an interesting cover. It was like pretty basic. And then I read the description of it, and I was like, can I read the description? Let's see. The description of it reminded me of a movie called The Age of Adeline.
Okay, fair enough.
And yeah, Adeline. And it was. And that was a movie I saw recently, and I enjoyed it. And I was like, I wonder if it's something similar, or if they got their inspiration from it, or if like the movie's actually based on the book, which I didn't look up, but but that's where I got it from. Okay, so the blurb is France, 1714.
Oh, okay, you're just gonna.
In a moment of desperation, a young woman makes a Faustian bargain to live forever, and is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. Thus begins the extraordinary life of Addie LaRue, and a dazzling adventure that will play out across centuries and continents, across history and art, as a young woman learns how far she will have to leave her mark on, how far she will go to leave her mark on the world. But everything changes when, cue Avatar music. After nearly 300 years, Addie stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore, and he remembers her name.
Spoilers.
Oh, that's true. I mean, we're gonna
No, spoilers. Like,
okay.
I'm glad I didn't read that, because that was a really big point. Like, I lost my mind. I was at work when that happened. I was like,
really?
or like, I stopped working to like really process that. Okay, really? Fair enough. Mm-hmm. So you saw it, you looked into it a little bit, and that was it.
I mean, and I also like I haven't read Faust, yet.
Me neither.
And I was like, that's one of the books that I want to read. And I was like, this is close enough where it's like I don't have to think about it too hard, but also get a similar kind of vibe.
Do you have a definition of what Faust is in your head?
Faust,
Yeah.
isn't it just like
Like when someone says a
deal.
Faustian bargain, which
Yeah.
is a saying.
It's
yeah.
like it's a deal with an entity, I guess, to like give up. I don't know if it's your soul specifically.
I think it's just
or-
something.
yeah,
Something
like-
with meaning.
Something with meaning for something that you want that's more like, I don't know. I don't want to say basic because like she gets what, youth and eternity.
Youth and immortality, yeah.
So
It's interesting. God, I already want to go on so many tangents.
Okay.
Okay, no, rating it. Anyways, it's a warlock from Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I think of Faust when I think of Faust. Yes,
Okay.
it's just the concept of a warlock in Dungeons and Dragons.
Huh. I guess just for reference, I have no reference for Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I've played, but not to the extent that Andres has. So that comment just kind of goes over my head.
It's fine. It doesn't have to go over here. It's not meant for you. It's meant for me.
As is this podcast recording. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, okay.
Okay, lean into the microphone.
it's for emphasis, okay?
I get it. No, yeah, actually, probably will get picked up. Okay, good enough. That's the basic question out of the way.
Okay.
I guess going over a brief synopsis of Addie LaRue, at least from what I interpreted, there's no really other way from interpreting it.
Yeah.
So we have Adeline LaRue from Vion, France, France, from Vion, France.
Oui. Mon chéri.
How do you call little lady in French?
No, I said my friend.
No. How do you say like woman or lady in French?
Mademoiselle.
Oh yeah, shit.
Come on.
Mademoiselle from Vion, France, who I guess the book describes her. She describes herself as well as her elderly friend that I forget her name the entire time.
Oh,
like
shit. Estelle?
Estelle,
Yeah.
yes. I was like, oh.
I mean, I want to be Estelle when I grow up. Just like live in the woods, be like, oh, whatever, not care about society.
Estelle being a pretty important character for Adeline, pretty much the entire time. Who went against the norm of what it meant to be a woman in the 1700s in France, which in Europe, period, where to grow up, be a woman, by 16, be married, have kids, die. That was the role. That's the role that Adeline completely loathed.
Yep.
And that is the role that Estelle managed to evade her entire life. Also, of interesting note, Estelle was not Christian, which is pretty freaking rad for the 1700s.
Yeah.
She believed in old gods, nature gods, I guess, really. Though I guess we have no proof of that. We have proof of. So Faustian bargain. She makes a bargain with. Stuff happens. She grows up. She's realizing she's running out of time. She will die in the 1700s average lifespan, what, 50s, 60s.
Right.
She will die in a couple of years. She's 1/3 out of life. She's 23, and she expresses that she's not really sure if she's Christian. She basically doubts it. She just does it as routine. Very relatable.
Enough.
She hangs out with Estelle a lot. Estelle shows her how to contact old gods, just offering favors. Like, here, have this small token of some value, and please offer me, I don't know, good water from the river to or to water my crops, or to good health, or whatever. Very minor things. Though it goes on and we realize that she's not really getting any of that. But there's always a strict rule. In fact, I think it's the first line of the book. Never pray to the gods that answer at night. Yeah. First line of the book.
Dun dun dun. Guess what Addie does?
So
Sorry.
pivotal point. No, it's fine. Pivotal point. This is how it all starts. It's crazy. What a crazy beginning. What a good book. She hits 23. She's rejected every suitor that's come her way. For some reason, she even makes it clear herself. She's not entirely sure why. It's just there's something always wrong. Also, always very relatable. Always something wrong with the person that she's forced to interact and try to make some interest out of.
too big of a nose, too spoiled, smells a little funky. Not even funky. I think he smells stale.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are these things nitpicky? Should she have lower standards? Questions for other day.
question for soon, because like that'll bridge into on obligations.
Yeah.
Right. 23. She eventually is essentially forced to marry this person who had already had a pre-started family. The wife died. He still has to remarry, as is his role in France in 1700s.
Cannot have the children raise themselves.
Yeah, and she did say there was a really interesting. There's just a lot of like very interesting lines in the book that I didn't expect to like really cement themselves in me. That's what I can't believe I'm rocking now. This is what this is.
We're now the rocking podcast.
We're on the rocking chair podcast. The rocking, yeah, fuck the chair. Rocking podcast.
Because we can still rock if we don't have chairs.
Yeah, that's true. Why should she have to give up her life to give someone else a second one?
Right.
Yeah, like that was so interesting. I didn't even think about it that way. Like getting married to a pre-started family, and her point of view was losing life twice. So anyways, the day of her marriage, it's in July. Yeah, somewhere in the summer.
Somewhere in the summer.
Is that a theme? I feel like I've missed that on that entire theme of seasons. That was brought up a lot, and then it stopped being brought up.
I mean,
the idea of like spring and fall being stitches of seasons, or the seams of like connecting winter and summer. One moving towards summer, one moving away from summer. Which I guess always going back to summer, but maybe she only thinks that way because of her deal that was made in summer.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's sunset. She's gonna get married. Bells are ringing. The husband's at the door. Her mom and dad are like happy but also sad because they understand that she doesn't want to do this, but she has to do that. She runs away. She just comes up with a lie. She runs away. She goes into the woods and she starts praying to her normal gods, the non-Christian gods or God. She's asking for literally anyone to listen, get her out of this situation. She'll do anything. She didn't realize.
Oh. Sorry, like totally interrupted you, but it's because I think it's something that we kind of like need to know is that
seasons.
no, well, in one of the suitors that she had, she actually prayed to the day gods and told them to to get kind of get rid of him, and then he died.
Yes.
So I'm like,
That's true.
Interesting.
That's true.
Because you mentioned you mentioned them being kind of like smaller gifts, and it's like, yeah, that's true. But someone died, which may or may not be related to her request.
Was that coincidence or not?
Right, exactly. But it's something that's like, I don't know. I thought
that's
about
right.
it for a while.
She didn't do it absent-mindedly. No, she knew that there had been results, not consistent results, but there had been a result. That's right. That's right. That's true.
Okay, continue.
Sorry. Yes. She goes out into the woods. It's sunset. It's about to be night. She makes a request, and she gets an answer without realizing that the sun had already dipped below the horizon. It had already become night. And for the first time that we're aware of, she makes complete contact with some type of spirit, which I think that's the premise of the story. She makes the bargain. She asks for more time. She doesn't know what she wants. She's always called a dreamer, which is considered wrong in her time. I guess it's still considered wrong now in a way. But anyways, she makes contact. She really doesn't know what she wants. In fact, she lists. It's like. I already want to go off on another tangent. Reining it in. That's not true. She lists off the things that she doesn't want, but she never says what she wants. And which is also something that this entity,
darkness.
The darkness. Yes, it's a god of the dark. Says like, you're telling me all these things you want. Why don't you tell me what you want? And she kind of fumbles her way into saying she just wants more time, and eventually gets to the point of asking for immortality with an off switch, which is pretty interesting because I don't think I offer that question a lot to like at bar talks. It doesn't matter. I think I've even told you like, hey, if you could take immortality, would you? And then like, what if you had an off switch? And she gets exactly that. She gets immortality with youth, not just immortality, with youth
and you.
With an off switch.
And
the moment she's miserable, she can end it instead of just being treated like a curse where you just will be there until the heat death of the universe. Very interesting. Such a cool concept. But that's the premise. That's the premise of the book. Then we learn about all these things that she experiences within 300 years of life until we get to the present. Well, present-ish, the recent past
Right,
of
recent
2014.
Yee.
Right? Especially, it's March 2014. That's my final
Oh
2
my
months of high school,
gosh.
and that's like what, your first year of college? Like,
First year
yeah.
of college. No, yeah.
Yeah, you're
First year of college.
like,
Crazy.
recent-ish past.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, and that's where it takes off. That's the premise of the book. It's a good. So, talking points, questions that I have for you,
Okay.
really, and
Okay.
not even questions, just discussing points, because
Okay.
at that point it really doesn't matter what else we go into.
Okay.
So, it's starting off with religion.
Oh god. Okay.
What do you think this night all? Because like that's they even make a point of it in the book. We
Mhm.
learn. No, we don't learn. He doesn't have a name, or if he does, he never reveals it.
Oh.
But
right. He's like,
Adeline,
I go by many names.
yeah.
And people call me different
Point of reference. Adeline draws. She learns to draw. She really likes drawing.
Oh, right.
And she falls in love with this drawing of hers, or she makes an ideal version of an ideal man for her.
Mhm.
An ideal version of an ideal man. Anyways, black curls, pale green. Oh, I guess she wouldn't know they were green, but they were pale eyes in her drawing.
Mhm. They're just green.
Specific, specific
Wait, did
build.
she have colors?
Sharp. I don't
Did
think
they have
so.
colors?
I don't think
it was
she
just
ever.
charcoal, right?
It was just charcoal.
So then how did she know? Well,
Well, she made them pale, or in her mind they were pale. Maybe in her mind they were always green.
Maybe.
Because I mean, to be fair, he read her mind and transformed into that.
That's true. Sneaky darkness.
Yeah. Which this darkness transforms into, and we learned out like probably like 300 pages later that she always had a name for this. What'd she call it? The dreamer? No, the wisher, the stranger.
The stranger.
That's what she called her drawing. Which was It was Lucian, right? Yeah.
No, just Luke.
No, Luke is what she ended up with.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Lucian.
But I think it was for Lucian.
Mhm.
Luke for Lucian, but now that she this is happening in like mid 1800s, since I think still France, like over dinner, where he's talking about she's talking about names, and he's like, well, what do you want to call me? And it's like Luke, and then in her mind it's like for Lucian originally, but I think Lucifer is more fitting now. And he does allude to the fact that the Christian God does exist.
Right.
And he also makes bargains similar to his, but his are better because they're immediately granted. Sometimes monkey pod, but immediately granted.
Right.
Actually, mostly monkey pod.
But immediately granted.
But immediately granted, unlike the Christian God who makes promises, but never fulfillments in his point of view. But it's interesting. Is he... Obviously, it's all alluding to this idea of not even like original Satan, but like modern Satan as it's being taught now, in the time that the author wrote the book. But is that what he's supposed to be? I'm not even sure that's really what he's supposed to be.
I think that is technically what he is.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea of like taking her and like her ideal guy and becoming that is in itself like trying to get something out of it, right? Like he could have just shown up as like some evil smoky dude, which is what he quote unquote is when he brings her into his darkness. But he did this like with intent, right? It might be that he had already seen that she had been doing these things and was like, mwahaha, very like twirly of the mustache here, and being like, okay, this is someone that will probably eventually call in the darkness.
But can he see that?
Yeah.
Can he be aware of things that happen during the day?
Yes.
Yes?
I think
was
so.
there proof of that? Oh, wait, yes, there was. Yeah, but in the 2014. Yes, where he talks to her in her mind during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. No, he is aware.
He's aware. It's just
that's an interesting
more
thing.
things.
How much did he know? Was he the cause of the death of that one dude?
Wait, which one, dude?
Of the original, not Rogier. Oh, maybe it was Rogier, but the original person that she was praying for him to something happen to him, so just not to marry. Was he the cause of it all?
I don't
was
know.
he the lead? I mean, we don't know.
We don't
but
know.
Like, was he the lead orchestrator? Did he orchestrate her upbringing to get her to make the deal? For different reasons, and maybe not different reasons. He's not shown to be omniscient.
It's not
or omnipotent, actually. He's not. He's very powerful, but he's not omnipotent.
No. And I think that's where it's like, I know they mention a lot of like the good versus evil thing, where it's like, oh, because I exist, obviously there must be like
Yeah.
some equal or greater
Yeah.
power, or
Yeah.
like the opposite of me.
That's a human's understanding of good and evil. He is. Period.
More on that.
No, he is. Period. Like
Mhm.
he's not evil necessarily.
Right.
He's just granting
wishes that are
wishes.
not the best kind of way, or at least to the people that are asking for them.
Yeah, and I wonder if he would respect a very carefully thought out wish with like legal definitions of words, like
Legal
because
definitions.
he catches them on their wording, on
Mhm.
like, well, you asked for this, you didn't say I couldn't do
Mhm.
this, but like, maybe he just wouldn't take the deal. He would just say, you know what, nah, bye.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He seems pretty fickle. But then it's like, oh, what is your understanding of this God? And they probably do whatever they want anyways.
Right.
But I mean, it goes into like the other examples that we get of people that have made deals with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, I don't know how far you want to go. Like, are we just gonna go through the entire story?
Well, at this point, we're already kind of right. Like, well, now we can just kind of
move around.
we just set up the premise, but it's the
Okay.
premise of the book. We have an immortal French woman,
Yes.
who I developed a crush on throughout the book.
Something like side notey about the book that I liked is that, well, I didn't have the physical book. I had the ebook and the audio book.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if the physical book actually has pictures of the art that they talk about.
I think they do.
You think they do?
Yeah.
That would be cool to look at, because they're all like.
We're at a library right now.
That's true. They're all rendered renderings of like that are attached to Addie in her. We're getting attacked by a bee, so please excuse random pauses. Oh, okay, so just like the various different arts that she, I guess, stars in, or is the source the muse for?
Go on. I'm gonna turn off vibrate just in case.
And then, so I think that's pretty cool. But, oh, okay, so I guess this brings us to the next plot point, which is Henry.
God, Henry. Oh, I don't know how I feel about Henry. Go on. Like, okay, yeah, let me bring up Henry. Henry Strauss. So this is the person who remembers her as a little blurb in the beginning, who we eventually find out, which is also a very big reveal. Big-ish. No, it was big. But like, by the time it was there, I kind of didn't care about Henry. But the way it was written was expertly done. I just didn't care about like him as a character, not really of the idea the author presented with him, because I think that was really good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like she kind of gave it away with the like drifting off into his narrative, and I was like, all right, this guy's gonna remember her.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, I was giving away meta knowledge. It's like, well, now clearly this character's important. Why will he be important? I didn't even read the blurb. I'm sure you already knew the moment.
Oh no, I actually didn't read the blurb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just Googled it on Goodreads, and it said Faustian bargain. I was like, bet.
Oh.
Honestly. But,
Henry Strauss.
Yes.
Who, a very important character, arguably more important than Addie, which is kind of why I don't like him.
Oh, gosh.
Because he is arguably more important than Addie in her own story, which is really interesting twist on things. So part of her curse is that she can never leave a mark on the world. She exists. She doesn't exist in society, actually. She exists as a human. Well, quote-unquote human, someone who can't die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she can, actually. No, she exists as a human. She's feels
human,
suffering and
right.
love
she
and
feels
pain.
Emotions, connection.
She just
things.
can't die by physical or natural causes. But therefore, she cannot leave a mark on the world. But she begins, throughout her years, discovers that she can leave ideas in people. She can incept people. she can leave ideas in people, and those people will remember the ideas, not necessarily the person who gave them to them. Just
right.
Like they remember the muse, but not the face of the muse. Very interesting. And
how we see this in the book tends to be like her relationships with people that only last like for the night, because as soon as they wake up in the morning after not seeing her for like 10 minutes, I don't know what exactly
it's not even that much.
No, I mean I think it's like if there's a closed door or whatever, they forget her.
Yeah.
So you falling asleep for 8 hours, you're not going to remember who you wake up next to. But so the way that she leaves her marks behind is by creating ideas and art with the relationships that she creates that tends to be like pretty much like one night stands for eternity.
Yeah.
Which
Eternal one night stands on their end.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she can continue to meet the same person over and over again, but that person's not going to remember her. So yeah.
Yeah.
And there's not really like there are forms of connection, but it's hard to maintain considering that all of your memories are gone. So she just feels very lonely when we meet her.
Yeah, so it's super lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not.
I think she does because she hasn't seen the darkness in like a couple years.
But she knows how to bring them. Even we don't know that, but she knows how to. She's even playing with the ring at the beginning of the book.
But the thing is that like at that point she has said that
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I don't know. But she said that it's more like a game at that point where it's like you're playing chicken and she doesn't want to lose. So it's not like even if she is lonely, she's not gonna call on him.
Yeah.
So it's more like, okay, what can I do to address my loneliness? And it's, I guess, make an imprint on the world.
Yeah, make an imprint. Yeah, she finds her passion in her world by trying to leave a version of herself, her art really, in others. The first person that we see her waking up with is a musician, who she has known for, I don't remember how long, a month.
I think it's like a month.
Yeah. Where every morning that they wake up, they play music together as a form of like getting to know each other again, or him getting to know her again. And he's been developing this song that in his mind, he's just kind of... It's his, but he credits it to a person he doesn't know. He fell in love with a woman he's never met or something like that, which I feel like that's also a song.
It is a song.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, no, not like in the book. I mean, like... I feel like I've seen that somewhere recently.
I mean, it could be that it's just like one of those average songs.
It is. It's a very basic, very generic song. Poor guy. He's not gonna make it.
Apparently he did though.
He made it. He made it. He did make it. That's her passion. That's her thing.
Yeah.
But in an average day, March, whatever, 2014, she walks into a bookstore. She robs a book. Since she can't leave imprint on things, she doesn't have money. She always steals. She always has to do what she can to get by without her curse impeding on her progress of constantly learning. If she's going to do one thing, she's going to do what she set off to do in the beginning. She wants to learn all these things about the world. And this guy remembers her. He remembers her walking out of the door, which is, we had already been established that people no longer remember her the moment the door closes. The moment, I guess it's really the moment there's a break in... A significant break in like and like, line of sight, yeah.
That's fair.
Because it's not like a blink or like a quick like turn, but it's a like I went to the restroom or like I got up to pick. Actually, she made it. I got up and got coffee and came back. Most people would no longer remember her. But she calls it off as odd. Just says, he must have followed me out of the bookstore or something. Like he never broke line of sight. Gives her the book. For some reason that we've ended up finding out later. And then she goes back the second day, the day after, because she doesn't want this book. I think it was the Odyssey.
The
Odyssey in Greek. Yeah, which she can read because she knows like a bajillion languages. Because what else is she going to do over 300 years?
Oh, I guess also mentioning that like when she was in her Addie in her past life in Lyon, she was illiterate, so she couldn't read. Yeah. So she had to teach herself.
Yep. That actually was a really touching part of the story too, when she met René in France, and he was like, learn how to read. Like you have to. It's so important. This was like 100 years into her life too. She had not learned how to read until she met this one guy.
Crazy. I don't like that aspect of it, but yes.
That it was a guy that like told her to learn how to read.
But at the same time, like
she was pretty lost at that point. Huh? She was pretty lost emotionally at that point.
I mean, that's fair. She was already 100 years in. I can't like gauge the emotional trauma she was going through.
We can a little bit because the thing is that since it's structured not like one timeline, because it jumps around. But in context, that was already 100-ish years after her initial mortality, so she's 123-ish age-wise.
And that's why, like, I feel like.
But when we learn later, like once we get into those in-between steps of her being 50, when she goes back to her home and meets her mother as an old woman, and then she goes back again, and she sees that her village has already started to slowly change. She sees Estelle's grave. She sees her parents' graves. Then she sees that her house is now occupied. Tangent. She sees that her house is occupied by someone else, and then she eventually does meet Renee after all of that. So she does have some stuff going on.
I mean,
that Renee's presented first.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is like one of those topics I want to talk about, but like after we go over Cicero.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So Henry
Strauss. I hate him. Why do I hate him? So she goes back. He remembers her. It's a very big deal. In fact, I don't know how long it is in the book, but in the audiobook, she says he remembers me, or I remember you, or something.
Yeah,
It's
he
like
remembers me.
it's like a page.
Yeah.
It's a page of just that phrase.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was insane. It was intense.
It
Like
was
this
intense.
book has a really good way of showing intensity through like reading it, because it happens twice in the
It
book. One of them being that one.
Mhm.
And we learn why later, and we can just go jump into it now.
Okay.
He also made a deal with the same knight, with Luke.
Luke the Darkness.
Luke in the Dark. Which I'm thinking, there's a game. It's so funny. I'm not sure if this is real or not. There's a game. The only tangent I'm gonna try to I could not resist. Chance is listening to it. He's gonna know immediately.
Oh my god.
There's a game called Tales of the Abyss.
Oh my god.
Prophecy of someone named Luke.
Oh god.
Which means light. And
Yeah.
I kept right. It does mean
The
light,
light
right?
bringer.
I think it's really funny that she calls the darkness, the
Light.
god of darkness, light. Is there a
Wait.
deeper meaning behind that? Yes.
So-
Yes, there is.
Lucifer.
I don't remember what Lucifer stands for.
I
Fallen
was like-
light, maybe.
Because I was like, that would then Lucifer be like the absence of light?
Fallen
I
light,
know-
absence of light,
Fallen light?
maybe.
I don't know. This is.
Right after-
Anyone who knows etymology, is it?
Etymology, yeah.
Etymology?
Etymology of words, yeah.
And pronunciation, can you please correct us? Or if you know what it is, also let us know. That'd be cool. Anyways, yes, he made his own deal.
Yeah, he made his own deal, which, God, Harry's such a crybaby loser. Because his problems compared to Addie's were not as significant. For him to, fine, he caught him drunk, and he caught him literally at the edge of a roof, so I don't think he was ever going to jump.
You don't think he was
No,
gonna
I
jump?
don't think so. I don't think he was going to jump. Like, I think that he was thinking about it, but I don't think he would have. But point is, so we learned that Henry
wait,
is a
on what?
crybaby.
Okay, to an extent, I agree that Henry is somewhat of a crybaby, but I also feel like he has
He has valid issues.
well, maybe not issues. Well, like okay,
Yes,
issues
yeah.
along with he has depression.
Well, yes.
So it's like, actually,
I guess I never really latched onto his idea of depression until where he was on top of the roof, because it wasn't described that way. And that might be the author's fault. Where he was like, I just feel too much. Like.
And see because
Yeah.
I guess some background is I currently am doing my master's in counseling, so not that I have more insight into this, but this is
Well, you
stuff
do.
that we talk about at work all
Yeah,
the time.
You do have words. Go on.
But I'm trying not to be like Cicero, but kind
It's in
of.
your mind now, isn't it? The
yes.
way he thinks is in your mind.
gross.
It's
Well, okay. Anyways,
We'll
moving
get
on.
there.
So, or I'm moving back, I guess.
Yeah.
The things that he talks about, like feeling too much and stuff, most of the feelings that he has tends to be negative related.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I'm not too sure about is I don't know if it's like both positive and negative, where he has really high highs and low lows, because then that would be like something else. But it doesn't seem like he ever has high highs. It's more of like he's very insecure, and then his depression makes him really, really, really down.
Right.
Where other people don't understand that, because he's like, oh, I feel too much, because that's how others conceptualize it. So he's trying to deal with like his depression, and everybody's like, why are you so sad? You're just like what
stop
you
being
said,
a crybaby.
stop being a crybaby. It's kind of like, oh, these are super small things that other people can deal with, but
Right.
why are you having a difficulty
Right.
thing with them? And so I would see like how everyone's devaluating like what he's going through, that he'd be like, why am I even here? Let's yeet, like off the building. So I don't know. Where you say it's like, I don't think he would jump, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he would jump.
I don't know.
I just think he wouldn't think about it that way. He'd just be like, I'm tired with, like, no, there's nothing good going on for me. And when you're in, like, a state of depression, you actually have no hope.
You don't see that,
Yeah, so it's like, all right, let's go. So.
Fair enough.
But I don't know. But he is a crybaby.
He's also, on top of, like, the way he expresses his depression is not that of numbness. It's of complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not that of, like, not getting up and not feeling. It's that of, like, constantly expressing your, like, anguish with the world. Even though he does have I mean, from a third perspective, he doesn't see it. We see it. He has a lot going on for him, in a way. He's not thriving, but he is surviving.
Right.
He has a good group of friends. Like, he has a strange relationship with his family, but almost because he wants there to be one. With his parents, understandable. With his older brother, also understandable-ish. With his sister, though?
Yeah.
He has a pretty good relationship with his sister, and he refuses to acknowledge it.
Right. It's not as close as maybe he wants it to be, or, like, I don't know.
But it could be.
But yeah.
Yeah,
like, there's like enough effort.
Maybe he hasn't set the expectations for that, but he has a pretty good relationship with his sister, clearly. But he doesn't see it that way. He sees her as a nuisance. It's like, you're really pushing people away from your life. Which, again, could still be
which is low self-esteem and depression.
Yes, it's still the depression and the low self-esteem. It's his emotional anguish. But he is a crybaby. The way he's represented is as a crybaby.
Pretty much.
Which is why I don't like that. In fact, I think the deal really cemented his want to end his life more than anything. Because like this is pretty much where I really realized, it's like, oh, he's going through a lot. When he finally realized, I would have sold it for less time. His deal was for exactly a year, which was never fully verbalized.
It wasn't.
But we found it out later. He said, I want everyone to find me necessary for a year, which was monkey pawed into everyone finding what they want in him. So if the cash register is some 90-year-old woman, he's going to be the perfect image of her anything, her husband when they met, or their son, who or if this is a normal encounter at a bar, like, and it's a woman who's bartending, she'll start flirting with him, flaunting with him, give her a number, and they just say what they want to say.
Right.
But
it's like it's not like a physical change, like it's not brainwashing where it's like they don't see what they're looking at. It's more of like the representation of what he is or what he could be or whatever is like changed. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, I see you as super tall person, 6'4", blah 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 blah. It's like, no, it's just they see, I guess, quote unquote, whatever they need to see in order for them to like
from him, which is that's miserable. That's because it's not like, oh, I love your red hair and he has black curly hair. No, it's like, I love the curls of your black hair, and it's like, but I didn't even comb today, which is like, it's a miserable existence. Like it is.
The best way to describe it isn't like, I think when he explains, I don't know if he explains or, oh yes, I think he tells Addie about the time that he asked his friend what she sees in him, and he was like, well, it's because you're such a great friend and you're always there for me when I need you. And he's like, I've not done any of that. And it's like, wow.
But maybe he has. It's a thing. Like, we actually don't know, because he might not realize his own worth with the relationship of his friends. His friends still are there with him. They were with him before the curse.
Right.
Yeah, like.
But I think the point that it makes of like exaggerating all of the things that he does is that now he doesn't know how much he
Right, and now he doesn't ever know. Yes. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And so the reason that they met, and he realized that Addie wasn't charmed in the way that everyone else was, which is that's the imagery she's conjuring. That everyone gets this glaze over their eyes. Even I've used that imagery to describe being charmed in D&D. Like, you get this glaze over your eyes. She does not have that glaze, and they realize that their curses are compatible in a way. While he can, it's not really sure why he can't remember her. I feel like that shouldn't matter.
So
I haven't been able to piece that picture together.
I think what they say it's because he remembers her because that's what she wants to see in him.
Right.
So, like.
Yeah, she wants someone to remember her.
Right.
Therefore.
So he's fitting that role.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, like, that's the question that I, like, kind of took me to think of, like, okay, is there going to be a point where she's like, don't remember me anymore, she doesn't want him to remember her, and then he's going to forget about her.
Right.
But that question was never answered, and instead they did this whole detour thing.
It could have been answered.
It could have.
Yeah, it was not answered. Maybe the
No.
author didn't have that in mind, or
Maybe.
like, or that's not how the curse worked.
That's true.
Which is also that's what's interesting about it, is like I don't understand why he could remember her. It makes sense that she would, like, in the end, it's an extension of Addie's curse and not his curse at all. That's like the most interesting part.
That's true. Well,
Henry's existence is an extension of Addie's curse. We do find that out. All of Henry's existence was which early on I told you she's not outsmarting this man.
No,
if he is the devil, if he is Satan, if he's the concept of the trickster god, she's not outsmarting Luke.
No.
She may think she has.
Right.
She is not. He knows too much. He, unlike her, who is pseudo-godish, she's the demigodish. She is not actually a god. She does have a lot of supernatural abilities, but one that mostly just her memory. Memory is flawless. Yeah. From the moment she became immortal, she remembers everything, which is also excruciating. That she lives life second to second. She will never experience that idea of like 100 years means nothing to me. Every second that she will experience as part of her curse.
It carries the same weight.
Yeah. Not outsmarted. Dead air.
Right.
Not outsmarted. That's why I was like, I don't know. I feel really weird about Henry Strauss.
I guess it's like, I also, because technically Luke put him as like a pawn, right? Like, well, maybe not his existence. Well, not existence as a person, but existence as
a curse.
As a curse in the book. We don't, well, actually, I didn't look into that. Maybe I can do that later. It's like when exactly Henry got his curse, and like what year, what date.
2013 September.
But like, how does that correlate to Addie's?
She was already in New York. She's been in New York for a while.
Right, but was that like at the time that they had fought? I don't remember the dates exactly. So is this like, because he said that pretty much he was a gift for her, right? So I'm curious as to, is this like our makeup gift that like, oh, we had a fight here, like crumbs kind of thing? And because he's like a god, he sees people as crumbs, and I mean technically she does too now.
A little bit, yes, to an extent.
I think it's more than an extent.
I don't think to a full extent. She treats anything that even relates to the material as crumbs, yes, but she even puts guilt in that. Like, she still feels human about it. Like, she's like, I just don't know how to be a normal person.
I guess that's
because I never, like, literally, in the middle of budding adult, she lost the ability to learn what it meant to be an adult.
That's true. I don't know, but so then.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh, I don't know, because Luke, unlike Addie, time does fly for him. 40 years is not 40 years for him. 40 years is an instant for him, because he's been alive for time immemorial. Or alive for time immemorial. Alive, I did quotation marks, for time immemorial. Their last major fight, I think, was still New Orleans, because that's what she alludes to that entire time in New York, which is in the 50s or 60s or something.
Oh, okay.
Right. It was something around that.
It had been at least 50 years since she had last seen him.
Yeah. Where Luke gave her a house, a way to remember, to have a base of operations for her where it won't be questioned because it's under his name. He can be remembered by different personas that he can make up. He is a god. But he gave her the house. They had some falling out. Not some falling out. They had a very big falling out. They always fight. The cursor and the cursed.
Is this Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes.
Question we may ask later.
Yes, it is. And I don't, or maybe not. Maybe she just still thinks that she's going to beat him, and she won't.
I think she thinks she's gonna beat him.
Yeah, but she never will.
But she ends it on a hopeful note.
She does, but so I don't think it could have been, but it was also Henry was there to punish her, not really as a gift.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, it is a punishment
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, okay,
It's like,
you
oh,
get
fine, you want to
attached.
know what human love feels like? Here.
Here's a year.
Because I've seen how all human loves end. They
Mhm.
end in misery.
Mhm.
And she's like, yeah, but I've never.
He's so jaded
Yeah,
for a god.
I mean, yeah, he's really like a Greek god. Like he really
Pretty
is.
much.
He has all these human personalities and
Mhm.
traits, and it's like, why though? Why do you think like a human ever?
I know. Why are you jealous of the person that you made for her to like fall in love with? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of see where like your point of him being made for her is an extension of her curse. I don't know.
Because
Like nothing else would technically fit.
yeah, 'cause I didn't think that was how it was going to go. I thought it was going to tackle the idea of Addie will finally learn what it means to lose someone forever.
Right, like death.
Yes, yeah, because like she didn't really get to experience that with her parents. She ran away from home when she became immortal because no one remembered her, and
Right.
why was she going to stay in a little village where they
Right.
likely would treat her as a witch and bury her underground, and she'd
Yeah.
be alive living through all of that.
That's so awkward. I know she brings that up.
Yeah, she says, like, there's nothing worse than being immortal and being underground.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she will not die, but she will feel her lungs fill with dirt, and she will just be there. Probably not forever, but for at least for a long time. Because
I mean,
Luke
until
would
she's like,
eventually,
"Alright."
yeah, Luke would have eventually been like, all right, I'm bored. Get up. Get up.
Either interfere enough, like
Yeah.
in the
In jail.
in
During
jail.
World War II. Yeah.
All these other things I
There's
need
a lot.
to...
There's a lot that happens in the book. That's why I'm also trying to like skip over to just the present stuff.
Yes. Okay, so then... I guess the time frame of the book is a year.
A yearish, yeah.
A yearish that she like meets Henry, goes out with Henry. How long?
It's not even a year. It's not even
Really?
no. It's from March to September.
Oh, right.
It's 6 months.
It's 6 months because he meets her at the 6 month mark.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the time frame of the book is 6 months. She meets Henry, the crybaby, and like she begins to experience what it means to fall in love, to date really. Who's to say that she didn't fall in love? Like she's probably more capable of knowing who if she fell in love with or not. But she also kind of gets infatuated with most people she meets. At least people of interest.
I'm like, I don't think it's that she's infatuated with them significantly. More of like, who is good enough for me to
leave an imprint. Yeah. And like,
because when she explains her quote unquote job, she doesn't say, "Oh, I like art." She's like, I'm a critiquer.
I'm a scout.
A scout.
She's an art scout. Yeah.
Right, but for like the highest value ones.
Yeah.
It's not like just random people. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah. Anyways.
Henry. Henry has a friend. But for what? Beatrice.
The only black.
The only black woman in the book.
So,
period. Not only just
concerns we will address after Cicero, because it ties in actually.
It kind of does, yeah. And then there's only one gay person in the book too, in the form of his ex-lover / boyfriend.
Although I do think that there's a lot of like.
That's not true, because Addie also had a Yeah,
I was gonna say there's more like pride representation. Than any other representation. Yeah, because Henry's
Jewish, but he's white, and then.
Oh no, he's bi too.
Oh no, yeah, as pride, yes, he's bi. Oh, he's not even bi. He's a demi.
Demi. Right.
Yeah, he falls in love with personalities. She's bisexual. But through sheer like, fuck, or like was that? It doesn't matter, but like it's very.
That brings up an interesting question. Where it's like, if you live long enough, will you? Just,
probably will. You probably will just like not even like I give up, whatever, but like. You probably learn to not even learn. It's not a learned. It's a very complicated question. It's not a learned experience, but
I don't know.
She realizes that it's not just black and white.
Right.
Yeah.
It's above our pay grade.
Yes, it's above our. It's not even my pay grade at all. It's your pay grade, not Jason.
Pay grade. That's fair. I will. Those are a lot of dogs.
Really getting picked up. I want to say yes, but who knows? Maybe not.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. As they lean over and speak louder into the microphone.
As long as we're louder than them, it doesn't matter.
Oh crap! I have to remember to do that. Anyways, So they're together for 6 months, and then I think it's on the last month, or is it the last week that he tells her?
It's the last month.
The last month.
Last month.
Then he tells her that he only has a month left.
Yeah. Yeah, it was July 4th.
Oh, right. So then.
No, July 4th he was weird. It was a month later. Yeah, it was the last month.
later.
Yeah, it was in August.
It was in August. And so when Henry tells her, her idea is to create another bargain with Luke.
Yeah. Her idea is... So throughout the entire story, we realize that Luke sees her differently because she is immortal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like we see a lot of examples of Luke going and claiming his debt in the form of souls.
Mm-hmm.
With Beethoven, actually Beethoven was, and there was one other. Who was it?
Joan of Arc.
Oh no, yeah, but he didn't pick up her soul. That was an example.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it was Beethoven and someone else.
Really
I think it was just some random person. The second one.
The opera singer.
Was it the opera singer?
I don't know.
It was some other. It was not as important. It was not as like, oh wow, Beethoven sold his soul. But he treats them as bargain chips, as just a soul to take because a soul is important to him.
Because they're entertaining.
But
he also appreciates the arts.
He does appreciate the arts. Actually, we do learn that he is an art boy. He's an art it. He's an art it. He does not like war,
No, he
but he likes that war makes art.
Yes.
The aftermath of war.
He likes people that make bargains.
Yeah.
And people in war don't make bargains.
Makes his life interesting, or his existence interesting. But since she is immortal, her deal literally runs out when she says it runs out. Which why would he ever make? It's crazy. Like why was he so naive? I
don't think it was that he was naive.
He was hoping that he would break her, and that was such a. That's also a really good line in the book too. Like a year in, 2 years in, it was pretty early on in her immortality. Where they're having dinner at some like rich French person's house that she's infiltrated as a maid, and since he's so rich, he doesn't realize how many maids he has or whatever. They always forget. Like he hires. I don't know. It was a perfect circumstance so she can blend in yet live in this extravagant house. He breaks that illusion against her because all he wants is for her to give up. And I wish I could find it verbatim in my head. But it was really cruel. It was the point of like, I will break you. Just like Drago in Rocky 4. Like, I must break you.
Yeah.
Like, he said it out. I was like, I'm going to break you. Like, I'm done like just being passive and hoping the world crushes you or your curse crushes you.
Mm-hmm.
I will break you.
And that was such a good thing for me to read because it goes from that, like, I'm going to actively make your life miserable to, like, all right, how can I also do that? But in a different way because this is not working.
Yeah.
Right? Because she kept refuting his, like, I don't know if it would be attacks or, like, whatever, points of trying to get her to stop being or, like, she still had hope, whatever, and she still had interest in life. So trying to get rid of that, and she wouldn't. So he was like, all right, let me be really nice to you. And then that's when...
Which was then that's when she, like, she started to fall in love with him. A point of contention. She cannot say her name after the curse. She cannot leave any mark, and that includes her name, which is I guess her name... No, that's not true. It can't be that rare. It's probably rare in the United States or in English-speaking languages, but Adeline probably is a semi-common French name.
Madeline. Adeline.
Yeah, like, it has to be. But he can say it. Of course he can. He's above the curse. He's the cursee. You know, like, he's the cursor. She's the cursee.
Yeah.
So she only ever hears her name through his mouth, and like that does mean something. She expresses that means a lot to her, and she's aware that means a lot. She's self-aware that like that's an attachment he has. She has to it. I don't even want to call him he, but him.
Capital M.
Capital H, like half capital.
Half
capital H.
Oh.
I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yes, since Henry remembers her, because we're still on Henry.
Oh right, that's right.
Since Henry remembers her, she tells Henry her name. He's able to say it. She falls in love with Henry too for being able to remember her. because that's all she's ever wanted, including hearing her name.
Mhm.
Just the way he says Adeline. Doesn't matter how he could have said it, I'm sure. But the way he says Adeline. Adeline. Hey, Adeline.
Oh, good.
Hey, Adeline. It's me, Harry.
Oh, my God. Anyways.
I'm walking here, Adeline.
Oh, my gosh. He's now from Boston, even though he's from, like,
New York.
Louisiana.
Upstate New York.
I don't know where his family's from. I don't remember.
I think
Like,
they
I
were
know
always
he
from New York,
drove
right?
a couple hours away, but I don't
It was
remember.
upstate New York.
Is that upstate?
Yeah.
If he lives in upstate New York, does his parents live in Maine then? I don't know.
No, I
can't
think
geography.
they live in upstate New York.
Okay.
He lives in New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they live in upstate New York. I don't know how far. He makes it seem like it's a lot, but like
Yeah.
people on the East Coast don't know
I
what
was
driving
thinking,
a lot
like,
is.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I was like, me driving my 4 hours.
Yeah, it's like I drove 4 hours all the way up to the end of the state. It's like 4 hours to get to another city. So
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh, God.
But yes,
Yes.
over the course of their relationship, the most meta thing happens. It actually was a big point, like not contention. I keep using that word, but it was a thing I was talking to you about. I was like, I don't know who the narrator is, and it's very strange because the narrator always seems like they know what's happened already. So I was like, well, it must be Addie, and Addie's just talking about it in the past. Then I was like, then I was like, no, it's not Addie. It's not. Doesn't sound like Addie. It's like, oh, then it must be Luke. Then Luke is the one narrating. It's like, oh, it makes sense. It's his deal. It's his prize. It's her invisible life. But no, yes, he would not. Oh, well, the thing is, I didn't know like how the book was framed until like, cause I was like, maybe it's just like the overall observer, and then it's the life of Addie, but it's not. Eventually, Henry and Addie are talking so much about Addie's life that Addie requests that Henry write her life in the form of this book. Oh, the meta reason of why this book exists within its own book. It's which like it's infinite.
Right.
This book exists inside the Addieverse.
It does, and it's the same book.
And it's the same book. So probably the only difference is literally the end, where it's just talking about Harry, and then Harry isn't writing about how he wrote the book.
Yep.
So that's a couple pages shorter. Anyways, it's a version of the book. Where was I going with that? Yes. And that also leads into, I think, the biggest reason why Addie wanted to not have Harry die. Harry? Is his name Henry? Henry.
I was like,
Harry
Harry
Styles. Henry.
Harry.
I personally
Harry.
think that's the reason she didn't want Henry to die. I don't like. Okay, so actually no. Going back, I do think she's pretty jaded on humans too. Not that she didn't fall in love with Henry. It's that she had more worth to him as a way to preserve her life than she did as a human being that she could have had a 70-year-ish long life. Yeah.
That's why I was like, I kind of see how it's like. Okay, so Addie does make a trade with. I was gonna say the devil. Lol. With Luke.
It is though.
Right.
Luke. Yeah.
With Luke about how he will get rid of Henry's curse if Addie chooses to go with him. We don't know if that means like they're gonna like she doesn't die, right? She's just going with him, quote unquote. Yeah. So just following him.
Just follows him around the world. Yeah.
Wherever that he goes. And we don't know like the stipulations and actually what happens after that because it's just Henry writing the
massive
book.
Time gap. Yeah. From that, there's a 2 years difference and like between two chapters.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think another stipulation is that Henry has to remember her, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which we actually don't know that, but it might be entirely true. He will be forced to remember her. Would Addie make such a promise? I think she would.
Yeah, I think she would.
Henry has to remember me. Maybe she doesn't mean it in the way that I'm thinking of.
The has to remember.
Forced to remember, like he cannot forget me.
I think
because I need my life story told.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is because this is something that I want to bring up in a later conversation, but because all of her life she's been so selfish. Like she doesn't
actually, yeah, even before her brutality.
Yeah,
she in an extent was selfish.
She's just focused on what she wanted. Yes, what she wants, what she thinks is good or whatever, and has no care for whatever else is going on. Even with like Estelle and stuff, like there could have been things that she could have done for Estelle. But she didn't, because it's like, oh, I want to be this person. I'm just going to draw charcoal, like with my charcoal and try to figure out what the world is. we don't ever see her like helping her family in any way.
No.
She's literally just doing nothing
Yeah.
and goes with her dad to see the world.
Yeah.
Like, so I think like her character would be okay with like, I'm not doing anything to help the world. I just want to be remembered.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's why like Henry, because he fits all of those things. So I'm curious, maybe because, well, never mind. His curse is broken because technically now other people can see him for what he is, right? And he doesn't die.
Yeah.
But I was like, the part of Addie seeing, or him remembering Addie being an extension of her curse wouldn't make sense there.
No.
No.
Because I think she traded away that portion of her curse too.
But I don't think it would be a trade away.
No, you're right.
She's trading for something.
Yeah. Well, which the trade was, so we also find out throughout the book
right.
that Luke falls in love with Addie, which is a very human thing for a god to do. Doesn't make any sense. This is actually where I started disliking the book.
Okay, but it was like,
a little bit.
Did he like love her, or was he just but like what I think what you said was like lacking companionship. Like she's literally like not an enigma or anything, but something that he can't have technically, so he wants her for that reason. It's not really because he's in love with her.
Yeah, it's not love.
It's possession.
Yeah, possession, though he expresses it in human concepts, which I guess is the only way Addie could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But
and the only way that she would agree to it.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be interesting for him. Because if he's just like, you fall in love with me, then that's not...
Yeah, and so the bargain was changed. She no longer has control of her own self-detonation, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's now under his control. The moment that he is bored of her, he ends her life.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't for 2 years, which 2 years might be for him. It's just, it's too small amount of time.
That's true. I feel like the wording is important.
It is very important, because I don't remember it verbatim, but it's shown like a romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Addie believed it for a time to be a romantic relationship, to the point where they got fully intimate multiple times. She treated it like they had a honeymoon period, right? Like it's and their house in New Orleans was essentially them getting married until she left, because she realized like it's always been the same thing with him, which it always will be.
Yep.
But that's what in essence, that's what she traded away. She traded away the self-detonation button. I will be yours until you no longer want me. Henry has to remember me. Henry's curse is gone.
Yeah.
That was the outcome anyway, so yeah, find the wording.
And the semantics may seem small, but he taught her once that words were everything. And when she carved the terms of her New Deal, when she traded her soul for herself, she did not say forever, but as long as you want me by your side. And those are not the same at all. And that's it.
Yeah. As long as you want me by your side.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's crazy because you find like, why would a god find her fascinating? I guess it's kind of the whole thing over and over of like, I don't know. He's too human. He is actually too human.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably more human than most Greek god representations, which are also like they have human flaws, but they do not treat their worries as human.
I don't know.
But he is, in fact, way too human. That's actually what. By the end of the book, I was like, I don't know who I like anymore. I think I just like Addie again, because I liked Henry for a little bit too, but then I was over him. Actually, do you want to know the moment I was like, I hate you, Henry. I hate the way he said goodbye to his friends. So it was the day before, right? It was like the week before, the day before. It wasn't that like he was running out of time. His soul was due.
It was the day before.
And he was saying goodbye to everyone. Well, to his friends. He didn't say goodbye to his family.
No, he did not.
Which, fair enough. Strained relationship with your parents, I guess. Sister deserved it too. Anyways, not sister. The sister deserved a goodbye too. Probably his brother too. But anyways, He says, Henry believes, the author maybe too, a goodbye should not be a period but an ellipses. I think that's verbatim. The idea is that it's not a door, which Addie actually does not believe that at all.
Mhm.
She believes a goodbye should be periods because that's what
Okay.
she's always wanted. It's so diametrically opposed. Goodbye is not a period, it's an ellipsis. It's a continuation, except that it should be an unexpected interruption of continuation that a goodbye should be. So if he says goodbye to his friends, like, "Hey V, can you please look over the store for me?" As a way of saying, like, I'm gonna die. I need someone to work at my bookstore. And then what did he make the promise for Robbie? That he was gonna go to the play for one.
Yeah.
And then Robbie's an actor, not that important, but it's there.
His actor / lover
Ex-boyfriend,
at one point.
What else did he promise Robbie, or make Robbie promise?
I think it was just that
He would go to the play. Yeah, like he made these promises that he would have done in life anyways, and just saying like, all right, see ya. That the ending should be a see ya, not a goodbye. See you later, not a goodbye. I hate that. I hate how he approached that. Like,
I think
he did make an example of why he believes that. When his uncle or someone was diagnosed with terminal cancer, everyone had mourned him in life and no longer cared in death, and he didn't want that to happen to him. But there's a thing of knowing that you can approach it differently and have your friends not. It's much more traumatic to realize that, like, I went home and never made it home because I don't know, a meteor landed on me, like versus like
having an idea
I'm
of saying
dying.
goodbye.
Like, and this is it. There's a way to approach that much more carefully, much better.
But you also forget, I think, that he still had his curse active, right? So, like, and if I am, like, characterizing him properly, I still think that he has a very low self-esteem. So I feel like he doesn't think that his death is going to impact them very much. And if it does impact them, it's only because of the curse.
Interesting.
And that everybody sees him the way that they want to.
That's fair. He doesn't have enough time to break down his curse. I don't think his curse would work that way once he's dead. The curse is broken the moment he dies. Unlike Addie, went 300 years to figure out all the intricacies of her curse.
So she has more idea of, like, what she can do, what she can't do, where he's like, I don't know.
No, but I hated the way he said goodbye to his friends. I stopped listening to the book. I was like, I need a break. I hate this. I gotta listen to music for a little bit.
I didn't like it either. It was very, like, I mean, I don't know.
Which in a way, good for him, because, they would have remembered that, and then he was still alive the day after. So, which is concerning.
Right.
Like, in retrospect, it was very good that he only said, "Yeah, see you later. See you at the end of the weekend."
Imagine it's like, hey, I'm gonna die. Addie saves him.
Yeah. Who called me? It doesn't matter. Unknown number.
I don't know. It was just like, I think it's very Henry to do that.
Yeah.
It falls in line with what.
It does. It's very Henry.
That's why you're like, I don't like Henry.
Because he's a
crybaby.
He is a little bit of a crybaby. Just a little too much. Addie could have found someone better. She had it pretty good with a lot of other people.
That's fair. I was curious about the Sam character.
Sam, for example. Yes, she alludes to. It's mostly Sam and Toby that she's really, like, struck something with. Because they were artists.
They were artists, and they were smart artists.
Yes.
Sam and Toby are ex-lovers of Addie. I think Sam's female, Toby is male.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember exactly what Sam does, but I thought it was interesting. Anyways.
That's Henry Strauss, which I feel like we just bounced everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's because that's the point of the book, right? Like, the plot twist was Henry remembering her.
Yeah.
And how it changes her slightly, like, I guess, one trajectory life of just trying to experience new things and try to convince others or, like, leave parts of herself behind to, like, oh, now that this is going on, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think she ever goes to that, but it's like, is having my memory be remembered worth everything that she's
about to do, which includes potentially dying at any moment.
Right. And then at that point she like runs away from that, and
Yeah.
is like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing whatever it is that I'm doing. And that's when I'm like, okay, that's what I mean by
Yeah.
like she has no empathy towards other humans anymore.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I circled back. I agree with you.
Mhm.
She does. She does not care. She actually never. In fact, I believe she never cared about Henry. He cares.
Just the idea of Henry.
The idea of Henry, then the idea that Henry can leave her mark on the world, everything, essentially.
Which, like, I think would have been terrible for Henry to realize after she would move on, if anything, if she would move on.
Yeah. I don't think she would. I actually don't think she would move on from that relationship. Because she won't ever find anything like it again, literally, unless someone else makes a similar deal.
No. I guess the better question would be, in that aspect, if she had to choose between darkness and Henry, which one would be the lesser evil?
For who?
For Addie. Would it just be
like,
Henry?
what is something she's committing that's less evil? It's less evil to be with Henry.
Is it?
I think so.
Even if she's like, if the foundation for it is that like her attraction to him is only based on like what she wants to see, which is literally what it is, or
Luke, who only shows her what she wants to. Because he didn't really fall in love with her. He has no concept of the idea of love. He just wants her.
I guess because she's more able.
But she is falling for that, even not necessarily at the end. But like,
again, like I guess Luke would be the worser evil there, but Addie would be the worser evil in the Henry and Addie relationship.
Yeah,
so
and it's like, just evil in the context of humanity.
Yeah.
Because it's not evil for Luke.
No, it's not. But yeah, okay, interesting. Because I was looking up reviews after I read it on Goodreads, and they were like, oh, why do we have to choose between this one guy and then the obviously slightly abusive other dude? And I was like, I don't think that's the point of this book. But now that you mentioned that, it's a good question, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
yeah, but it's not the point.
No.
The point is Addie. It's the invisible life of Addie. LaRue. It's about all of her choices that have no impact, except for the ones that do, which are way too impactful. Because like, imagine a world where she literally because it's the Percy Jackson effect. It's like, oh, if you're reading this, it's too late for you. Sorry. Where she quite literally reveals through a work of fiction that there is an existence of at the very least one eternal deity.
Okay.
Like, that's impactful.
Yes.
That's very impactful. In her universe, she has released the idea that it exists.
Very interesting.
And she's also a constant observer of humanity's downfall. Where while she can't do anything directly, she even she can do things indirectly. She was a spy for many years, always trying to help one side or the other. Shouldn't she be neutral? Maybe, but like, she's human, so she's going to choose, like, for instance, defending France in both World War I and II, or working with the Allied powers, or like, it's a lot. The impacts she does make in the world are way too impactful for someone who shouldn't have any impact.
I don't know. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think for me, I did notice her using her abilities in order to kind of bring about change in in certain things. Like, she mentioned that she was a spy, and then that she was incarcerated.
Yeah.
And then she had to get bailed out by Luke. But I was always under she only stayed in Europe for the most part. And that was something that I wanted to tie into Cicero on, is she obligated to do more because she's gonna be on the earth for so long. And it reminded me of Eternals. You know how they're like, we must not meddle into humanity's whatever, because they're not beyond us, but beneath us, kind of thing. And I know she chooses to do smaller things, but I feel like the things that she chose to do are very Eurocentric. where it's like she was alive for 300 years and only explored Europe. I'm like, there's a world. I'm pretty sure there was planes because there was bombings and stuff. Like, there is, like, so much stuff out there, and I feel like she could have made a bigger impact on the world. But because she's a selfish white woman who likes art and wants to be remembered, those are her priorities. So other, like, social justice-y stuff is, like, thrown out the window. Which I'm, like, meh about. So that's why I'm like, Addie's cool, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, is her obligation to help others. And this is where we transition into Cicero.
Yeah, cool.
I'm terrible at describing things, so.
There's no built-in editing transition. We're just transitioning right in. We're not even taking a break. We're going straight into
actually,
it.
should we take a break? We should take a break.
Do you want to? Yeah.
I
All right.
should probably walk around for like
Cool.
2 minutes.
The in-between transition.
Oh, good.
After a small break of discussing things.
Right. For those who can't see us, we switched chairs because
it's important. I wonder if you can pick it up. I don't think so. I think it's recording like binaural.
Mono stereo instead
Yeah, I
of...
think it's just maybe it does sound like a little different. I guess the distance is technically a little different.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I don't know. We'd have to see. If not, we're gonna hear the, like, what is it called? That one song? Oh my god, the one by Bohemian Rhapsody?
Oh.
Yeah. So if you don't like hearing my voice, you want to switch it to the other earphone if you're listening to it on earphones.
don't like your voice on your right ear. That's the solution.
I don't know.
Only your left ear type of person.
Okay, so I had written a couple questions for Andres to answer. Some of which...
Oh, they were dedicated towards me.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
There were some that I had for myself, and then there are some that have to do with both books, so I'm gonna skip those.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I mean, I guess
that could
not,
be
we can talk about
the
it
branching
later. That's
into
true.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so the question that we left off with, which is, did Addie have a moral obligation to participate in more socially activist causes?
We're starting with the one that ties into me. I thought you were gonna go with the past one. Oh no. I don't think she does.
You don't think so?
No. Because on duties, the Officiis is about your participation in society, and she exists outside of society. In fact, that is her curse. That she no longer should, at the very least. She did realize that she can, but the curse from the get-go was that you will have immortal life, but you will never be a part of society. You will never be able to experience the sharing of knowledge or something. And maybe she didn't want to share it, but she wanted to have it, and therefore would want to share it. You would never get to share your art. You would never get to do all these things. But she found out ways she could. And in that finding... Actually, maybe I'm making a discovering. In that finding of her peculiarities, which is term Cicero uses, maybe I'm not sure exactly how to found obligations or not, because I also read some supplementary material for obligations. That book it drove me crazy for like a week. So it's kind of
okay.
In her finding her peculiarities, she did the just thing of finding their full extent of them. And that was correct. Cicero would agree that was a good thing, that she found out everything about her curse because she had an obligation to do so, to therefore be able to contribute to society in her way. But if she exists outside of society, I believe Cicero would say that she has the right, and therefore would not be wrong, for her to be isolated from it. And therefore can get away with some things. Like, Cicero does make examples of people who can exist outside of society and not be virtuously unjust.
At the same time, I think he mentions he says something along the lines of one's obligation. Okay, no. I think the best example, if I can remember it, I cannot remember it word for word, but it's along the lines of, like, if you are a person it doesn't specify what kind of person you are, but if you cause harm unto another person, you shouldn't do that, right? Or if
Yeah.
you're trying to if you need food to survive, you shouldn't steal food from another person.
Yeah.
But if you are a good enough person, stealing food from another person is worth it, even if that leads to a detriment of the other person.
Mm.
So in this case, Addie has at least 300 years worth of experience and knowledge and potential of all of these other things that could help society, even if she resides outside of society.
But can't? Oh, she can. She can in small ways of society.
Mean, yes and no,
Yeah.
because in this case, she made a book.
True.
But it only dealt with what she went through.
Well, Henry wrote the book.
Right.
Yeah. That's
but
it.
at the same
so
time,
whose obligation was it really?
No, because it's still her obligation, because she could have easily told him to write something about something else. And it's not that she is not that she is unable to provide or influence the world, because she has. She's been able to find those parameters. But she chose that I want to tell my story rather than whatever else that could probably benefit society more.
Yeah. Yeah. Addie's not virtuous. She is not virtuous.
Okay.
I think Cicero would say that Addie is not virtuous, and therefore will never be happy.
Okay.
So Addie would have never, ever given her life away, but she gave it to someone else. Well, she gave it back to the person who owns it anyway.
Right. So then the question is, did Addie have a moral obligation to participate in more socially activist causes?
Does Addie have a moral obligation to participate in more and things that throughout her life, not even just the book, but the book is probably the biggest way that she could have. Because if she really wanted to, she could have told Henry, write that I regret stealing bread from this owner, and write how else I would have done it now that I know this much. But she did it. Or at least Henry did it. But clearly, she the beginning parts of her story, she was present for the writing of. Henry just put it all together.
I wonder if the author was good enough where you can see changes in styles of writing.
Oh God!
But I would have to go back.
We would have to reread it. Yeah.
I don't know if the author would be that good, but I don't know.
She is. That's kind of amazing. I don't know. I kind of want to. I kind of want to do that now. Maybe at a later time.
Okay.
We'll revisit Addie.
Yes.
I personally think I'm sticking to my original answer, even though I do think she has some She does have some obligations if she wanted to be a good person, according to Cicero, and she failed all of them.
Okay.
But just from the premise of her existence, she exists outside of society. So his thoughts on, I think Cicero would also say she is also not human, just like Luke.
Oh, okay.
So it does not apply to her.
Fair enough.
Because her mark on society is not significant enough to matter. She cannot participate in politics. She can be a part of it, but she cannot participate in it. She can't make the swing vote. She can't make the influential decision. Do
you think that's for a lack of trying?
I don't think she can. I just don't think she can.
What if she were to not sleep with, sorry, that's slut shaming. What if she were to have a conversation with a very influential person multiple times for an extension of years? Because it also says the way that I know, so the reason that she doesn't keep certain relationships is because they don't quote unquote benefit her in the long run.
Well, they also start hurting her.
Right, they also start hurting her. But for example, if she meets baby Hitler, obviously she's not going to know, right? But we'll say that baby Hitler grew up from a bunch of fascist parents, and so she was oh, this one kid, random hypothetical. If she grows with him and is able to influence his thoughts, which are ideas, she said, are okay.
Yes.
She would be able to create a good a good that would be more than what she directly can do. So it's not like she's scot-free. She has ways of doing these things, but because she's focused on herself, she doesn't she's looking for those parameters, but
Yeah.
just within her own reach.
Yes. Yeah. She is too selfish. She is too selfish. She discovered her peculiarities and then she did not use them for the benefit of society.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, yeah, like she accomplished one thing that Cicero really wanted, and then she did nothing
then
with
she was
it.
like,
Yeah,
"That's it."
because Cicero would love everyone to discover what it is, what they benefit to the world. Like Cicero would also hate Henry.
No, because he's one of the useless ones, so he's okay with him not existing. That was one of the quotes that I was like, damn, this guy does not give a fuck. He's like, if you're not helpful or you're not useful or not good, get out of
Yeah,
here.
well, it's because I think
And I feel
he's
like
not
we should
useless in the
I was gonna
modern.
say-
Yeah, we could.
We're just gonna say that we transitioned into
We're
our next book.
transitioning into alright. Yeah,
Into
lead
On
discussion.
Obligations by Cicero.
De Officiis.
The
But the
Officiis.
coffee,
The coffee that
the coffee we read
Right.
was on obligations.
Oh, We're just gonna start talking accents now. Anyways, you were saying.
No. Now we're officially starting the book.
Okay. Oh, no.
Now you could start off with the question.
Yes, the question that we left off before our interlude, which was the same question we left off when we left off in the first part of the recording / podcast question mark of this unnamed podcast is: did Addie have a moral obligation to participate in more socially activist causes? The book that I had to read, well, I mean, I had to read both, right?
Yeah,
But
we read both.
The book that I chose not to read,
There you go.
that I was made to read, is Cicero on Obligations, or what did you say?
The Officiis.
The Officiis.
Yeah, but our copy is on Obligations.
Which is translated to On Duties.
So, more commonly known as On Duties.
On Duties.
Yeah.
It's 130 pages of like pure nonsense. I'm just kidding.
It is.
I mean, a lot of the points I feel are very common sense. It's like things that not intrinsically.
Oh, they're common sense now.
Huh?
They're common sense now.
I mean, that's fair.
Because that book's ideas have been implemented into our society.
So I'm curious about that, just because there's a conversation I had recently over a Martin Luther King quote that was very close to something that was in here. So I'm gonna read both, but the idea behind this is Cicero's child also named Cicero?
Cicero's his last name, so yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, why does he call him Cicero?
Yes.
Anyways, so Martin, I don't
know. Yeah, it's Cicero.
Sure. Cicero, not Junior.
Yes, Cicero Senior and Cicero Junior. That's the whole problem.
Cicero Senior wrote a long ass letter.
A really long ass letter.
A very long letter to his son in regards of how
Marcus. I think that's his son's name.
Huh?
I think his son's name's Marcus.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
his son's name is Marcus because he makes fun of another philosopher whose son is also Marcus, who also gets a letter. And I'm just like, okay, I guess
some
it's
real
just,
dad
like,
vibes.
Marcus Brutus, like there's so many Marcuses and whatever. Anyways, so he just writes this really long letter about how his son should live his life.
What it means to be a man.
Sure.
In Rome in 2,000 years ago.
Fair enough. I have qualms with this being a woman
A femme.
in current life. I still can't remember what word he uses. That women need to deal only with things regarding. I can't remember. It'll come to me later. Or maybe not. I hope it's one of those things. Sorry, my thought process is all kinds of whack. I'm hoping that I'll just like open the book and
it'll be there.
There.
It'll eventually happen. Yeah, it could.
Right. I only have.
The odds aren't like impossible.
It's like 1 out of 213 pages potential.
Yeah.
So it was. It talks about how you should live your life and what it means to be a man in society.
Yeah, in society.
In society. Society being Rome.
Falling Rome.
Falling Rome.
Context.
After being like emperors to everything that they saw prior.
Yeah.
the book is technically broken down into an introduction, book 1, book 2, and book 3. And I have issues with all of these. There are some parts that I kind of like, due to a personal, I guess, conversation that I had recently, brought up their idea of obligation,
Mm-hmm.
like familial obligations.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of ties into what it says here. I don't know if it's in the first book or in the second book.
It's in the first book.
In the first book,
Mm-hmm.
when it talks about, like, you should care for your own household and whoever is in it first, and then, like, move outwards from there, so, like, different realms. So, like, first your household, then it's, like, I guess your city, and then after that is, well, I don't know how the structure in Rome was, but also how your parents take precedent over your own family, and then after your family is, like, your friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But earlier than that, he was talking about how, well, not really. He was just talking about, see, this is one of the things where I just need quotes, where he separates, no, oh, what time is it? 4. Can you explain the part about, like, choosing between 4 different, where's my phone?
What part?
The part where it's, see, this is where I'm like, I cannot introduce things because I'm terrible at that.
It's fine. I'll fill up the space.
Oh my
For
gosh.
context, because I guess I realized I use virtuous, but like, and I'm using it in a very specific way. We're talking about virtuous as in the virtues introduced by the Greek philosophers. Probably more commonly known from Nicomachean Ethics from Aristotle, or the balancing of extremes, which Cicero believes in as well. The idea of oh God, what are they? Prudence and wisdom and all of those stuff. So when I say virtue, I don't mean virtue in our common understanding, or virtue like, I don't know, a Buddhist virtue, or a very specific form of the idea of virtue leading into happiness. Yeah, all within context of this one book being pretty near the fall of Rome, definitely near the end of Rome for sure. Or at the very least, where Cicero and most people can probably begin to see that it's going to collapse. Maybe not in their lifetimes, but soon.
In the recent future.
Yeah. In the recent past future.
In the recent past future. Okay, so he talks about obligation being separated into 5 parts, right? It's the good versus useful, being the last one, and then it's like how good is good, and then the intrinsic value of good, versus the crappers, versus the usefulness, how useful is useful, and the intrinsic value of useful. And I don't know, I guess it's like, as I was reading it, I was taking into the conception of, like, what he was telling his son as if he were telling it to me, until I realized, as a female, I have no, quote unquote, would have had any kind of been able to have any thoughts on the matter, where it was just like a lot of the things that he mentioned were useful or inherently good had to do with privilege and how to use what you had in order to help society, instead of acknowledging, like, it was some things where I think he mentioned you should be happy with what you have, pretty much. Like, if you have lands or whatever, you shouldn't strive to get more, but if you do get more, it should be done one way, not the other. But also, if you were to do that the second way, it's okay if you can, like, justify it, instead of being like, you shouldn't try to. I guess it comes with the context of them being Rome, being conquerors. So,
conquerors, an empire, like, barbarians.
Right. Where it's just like, okay, we're just gonna justify what we've been doing by like rationalizing our behaviors and being like, well, I'm gonna provide better and more for everybody in society, even though that may not be true. And if they don't go against us, they can be with us and learn from us. And I'm just like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, Cicero loves Rome. Like he says it pretty early on in the book.
Yes.
Like he loves Rome. I feel like most like people that still are being talked about now from Rome all love Rome. It's a love Rome. He even loved military leaders.
Yes.
Like, in fact, he makes it a point. It's like, praise your military leaders because they're the ones that are advancing Rome.
Yeah.
Even though it's literally happening like after the defeat of a major military. I don't even remember. Oh no, yeah, it's Julius. Yeah, it's after the Ides of March. It's literally after the defeat of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, depending on who you ask for, military leader of Rome. After his literal murder.
And I thought that was really funny because I don't really know too much of the history about Julius, but based on is it what's that Shakespearean book? Is it Julius Caesar?
I think it's the Shakespeare novel is, I think it's also called The Ides of March, right? I don't know.
No, maybe
King Henry? No, I don't know. But yes, he did write a book on the Ides of March.
Yeah.
That's where it's probably most well read. in
That's
an English class, not a history class.
I was like, this is my information of this. I am not a history buff, but it was mostly. Even I got that, where he was, like, trying to allude to things that's, like, oh, before. Like, not really right now, but, like, before when we were really off.
Before it went to shit.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I think it's, like, I was trying to understand the values that he was trying to instill or, like, show to his son Marcus. Cicero the Jr.
Cicero Jr. Just Junior, for sure.
Just Junior. Yeah. But it was, like, there was so much nuances between things that, like, I feel like you could argue for every like either way, which is not really helpful if you're trying to like create guidelines for your son or like whoever to follow.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you should do this, but in this cases you can do this, and it's like, well then.
No, why do that? Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's frustrating because, like, at least with, like, Plato, it's like, okay, you just find the middle ground between everything. It's like, that's a lot easier to follow.
Yeah.
And you can, I guess, gauge the goodness and intrinsic value of things in general, where he's like, well, that may be good, but in this case it might not be. I don't know. It's just very, like, self-serving, I think. And I don't know. There was, I think, apart from him being a humble brag and just talking about how he's so amazing, I think there was one part. Oh, this is the differences in themes.
Dead air. Oh no. Filling in while you're looking for your thing.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we need to move.
Yeah. Okay.
Where is
so this actually ties into Addie, where he talks about injustice, there being two kinds, the ones who inflict it and the ones who do not protect victims from injury when they have the power to do so.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where I thought.
That's where you were coming from,
the Addie does not fall. Addie falls into the second category, and she doesn't do it.
Yeah. She never. In fact, she also indirectly harms people. Yeah. Every food she takes, someone else suffers for it. And every food she eats, someone else suffers for it. I think that's the quote.
Every food she eats, someone else suffers for it, right? And that's the thing that, like, Cicero's like, oh, the only reason you would be that would be morally okay is if you're such an amazing person.
If you are contributing to society, yes. Because it all falls into politics. It's like how much can you help influence the state of Rome, and or anything in general. Because the hierarchy, if I'm remembering correctly, it's shared between your parents and your structural parent. Yes, your country. They both have the highest priority to you. I don't remember if he states whether one ever supersedes the other, if one comes into question. But no. I think
he says that they're, I guess, just like the top tier.
But I feel like if your parents are against Rome, he would have said, you side with Rome.
Yeah. That was very much the idea that I got. And that was the thing that I was frustrated with. Well, not frustrated with. I guess it's because as a 22nd century.
Oh, right now we're in the 21st. Yeah.
Oh yes, because we're in the 2000s.
Yes.
I don't know why my brain's in 2120. That would be crazy. Anyways, we're in the 21st century. I see, like, I guess there have been a lot of changes in our relationships, in like parent to child, and also in society, that make that a little bit, like, for me specifically, like, harder to swallow. Where it's like a generational thing where like my parents are like, oh, you have to take care of your parents first and then your children, and I'm like, why would you do that? Like, your parents, especially if they're not too much older, like they're already well off, and your children are like being denied certain things because you're taking care of your parents. And it's like it can go both ways. With Cicero, he's like, you should put your, well, not you should put, but like, your parents technically have priority over your children.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, but you should also care for your own household, instead of looking towards another's.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you have, I don't know, and I guess it's also like a cultural thing. It's like, if in Rome all of their parents were living in generational homes, I guess it still makes sense because your parents and your children are together.
Yeah.
But now we don't have generational homes as much.
Mm-hmm.
So if your parents have a household, you have a household with your kids, do they still have priority over your children? Like, I don't know. And then it's like, if they're in your household but your parents aren't, do you have an obligation to take care of your kids first before your parents? Like, I don't know. That's a like 21st century issue.
Yeah, because it's out of context now, and now we have to phrase it and try to fit it into context of whatever Cicero wanted or believed. What Cicero believed. I don't know either.
Useless.
I would say.
Just kidding.
I mean, I'm not an expert on Cicero either.
Quote, not quote. What is it?
Quote? Clip that.
Sidebar.
Chat. Don't clip that.
Sidebar. We're now getting rained on because we're still in our rocking chairs outside of the library.
It's true. We need to move.
We probably should.
Just like under.
Shade.
Yeah, like under the awning. Keeping it on. Here. You need help with it. I don't think you do, but I was just offering.
Oh, I think I yeeted my pen.
That's what you get.
That's what I get for trying to be like a stubborn, independent woman.
We did it. Okay. And now we can sit on the floor.
Next to these lovely flowers. It's so crazy. They have like the biking machines. So
for reading and exercising at the same time?
Exactly.
Crazy.
I'm just gonna sit on that.
I was gonna say, I don't care. Just slightly cold. Now it's a real book. Now on the floor. Put this right. Cool. And we're back.
And not getting rained on.
For now.
That's true. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be that bad. Okay.
I lost the train of thought.
Often there is more than one reason for the failure to defend a person. This is an argument with a different person. Moving on.
That's a loud plane. Yeah. I think I picked up more than it would have over there.
But the life of a man on glacier. Okay, so we must perhaps allow abstention from public affairs both to individuals of outstanding talent who have devoted themselves to learning, and to men hindered by ill health or some other cogent reason who have renounced politics and have yielded to others the power and praise of administering the state. So this is a question that I think I had for you earlier, where it was like, how does gaming...
Right.
How does gaming and individuals who...
How do gamers fit into
the Japanese culture called... Fudge, I forgot the word. Not incels.
Otakus?
Is it otakus? No, not otakus. The one... Neats.
That's not Japanese. That's a thing here, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a Japanese thing.
I think gamers is... I think we're at it. These are two different things altogether.
Yes, but like neats would like fit in nicely because they're like
neats
literally...
yes, but like Needs
Okay.
aren't necessarily gamers.
True, but that's what I'm saying. Like both of these would fit nicely. Anyways,
Sorry. Actually, this is your pen. Take that.
Thanks. Okay, we'll start with gamers. Like how they tied in.
Gamers. WWCD. Oh, WWCS. What was Cicero say?
What would Cicero say?
On the topic of people spending more than, let's say, 2 hours. Spending more than on their hobby. A hobby's a worth amount of time on a game.
A hobby that is not intrinsically
That does not
helpful
intrinsically.
to society.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because Cicero doesn't say not to enjoy yourself, but
where is the line?
where is the line?
And I
he
couldn't
never
find that
clearly
line,
draws
no,
the line, but he
no.
does say that like life isn't just about always dedicating yourself to politics, but most of your life should be centered towards it.
I think you mentioned
politics also context, not meaning like make sure you vote. More like it's dedicating yourself to the area you live in.
Right.
Contributing to your surroundings to better help
your
humanity,
community.
not necessarily.
Like go vote for
Yeah,
it.
go be whatever.
Go get the sticker.
Yeah.
Go get the I voted sticker.
Yeah.
Dang, I was gonna say something else.
Like if you are contributing in your neighborhood watch, you will by Cicero are a good person.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with
Unless
who's
you're
president.
like hitting people's mailboxes and causing harm, then you're not.
Well,
not a good
yeah,
person.
and that one's a pretty. That one's a pretty.
But what if they're like doing that in order to prevent other people from doing that? Like, you know.
No, Cicero. No, you don't start wars before.
Before trying.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't start wars. You don't end. You don't try to end wars before they start.
Yes.
Yeah, Cicero not. But okay, gamers. If you were spending more than a hobby's worth of time, which you and I are both guilty for, into playing a game.
I would argue with that, but not recently.
I mean, if you had a much more normal schedule, an 8 to 5, like yours truly, what would you spend it doing from 5 to midnight?
Most of the time, I don't think I have enough. It's hard to say. Because it's either...
if I invited you to play a game on a normal Wednesday,
crap.
Would you stay that entire time?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
Yes, like, so, like...
Whatever.
Yeah. Like, let's just rephrase it. Let's remove your choice from the matter. I invited you. You can always say, no, that is still your choice.
Right.
But if you're like, yeah, sure, and then you would play more than an hour or two.
Yes, for sure.
In fact, depending on the mood, you may even choose to stay up into irresponsible hours of the night. I've done that too. Comparing us, and let's put us in the gamer's perspective. Cicero would say that is, you will never find happiness doing that. You're not participating in any type of community. Sure, you can help others within the game, but then that itself is not its own community. I feel like Cicero would be against any type of, I don't want to say excessive use of time that isn't your work or dedicated to your family / hierarchy of obligations. Because it is not an obligation. It is an obligation for you to seek pleasure, as it is our nature to seek pleasure, which is also the topic covered in book 2, I think. The idea of the separation between a human and animals, rational thought, which, I mean, yes, but that does not mean that humans do not have nature. We seek pleasure. We should pursue pleasure within reason, as long as those reasons are prudent and wise and useful and good.
Good. And I want to say on brand, but it's also my brain is not working with me. On crap, I can't. I'm getting too distracted now. I used all of my thoughts for an hour and a half, and now I can't.
We haven't even started comparing the two.
No,
not really.
Not really. I think it was my brain blanked. Whatever.
Nah, I can keep going. It's fine. So, because in Cicero's world, art does exist. Artists are useful to society, that they provide entertainment. But entertainment need not last 24 hours. Entertainment is something you seek out every once in a while. You enjoy it. If there is an artist, there must be someone who takes in the art. Video game itself being art, containing within it many forms of art. There's writing, there's music, there's cinematography, and now all sorts of things. Game design by itself is art. So there must be someone there to receive it, and being a receiver of said art does not make you
A terrible person.
by Cicero does not make you a terrible person, but dedicating too much time to just focusing on art without contributing to anything does. So if we move, like that's my view on like, oh, what would Cicero think of gamers? But moving into, so he would not think the hobby is bad, but he would think that people who abuse it are bad.
Okay. The within reason. But also contributing to society.
Yeah, because you can learn something from the game and then move it back. Maybe even make your own art, make your own game. But you're just absorbing it for multiple hours on end to the point where you're becoming irresponsible with your own obligations to your family or obligations to the state, which could be considered your job, etc. Yes, that's where he finds issue with that. People tell Marcus, like, get a life, touch grass.
Right. Touch grass.
Needs. He would consider to be one of the useless.
Yeah.
The I forgot what the Latin word is. I learned it like a week ago and it's completely escaped me. But it's around the same level, like utilidad, utility. It's the untouchables of a certain other country. There are people deemed less than useful. Because you can be not useful but still be useful to society. There are people that can never contribute to society. They just are incapable, and therefore
are not human, pretty much.
Yeah, this is actually where I was going. Do you remember the question I posed to you last week?
No.
Do you think Cicero has a lot of stipulations and a lot of different asterisks for all of his things?
Yeah.
Would Cicero at any given point in time be okay with self-harm?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
He would.
For sure.
Yes.
It was something I mentioned earlier where it was like, when I got to the part where he was like, if you're not useful or good, just like go kill yourself.
Yeah.
And I was just like, as a person who believes intrinsic value in everybody, even if they're not creating some kind of good, I'm just like, what? You're telling your child that if
you generate no value that can be perceived by more than one person, then you have no use. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Crazy, and it's a sign of times changed.
Yeah.
Because to him, I don't know how true it is. Obviously, we don't live in Rome. To him, this is not, because it reads now like an ideal book, like a utopia. Not even utopia. You could say dystopian, but it's an ideal scenario in this idealized version of Rome, which did exist at some point in time. And he calls Plato a dreamer, which he did. Plato's Republic is a purely speculative piece. Plato's acknowledged it too. And then he wrote his own version of the Republic, which is more realistic. But the book now reads like an ideal representation of people. I wonder how true that actually is.
Of like his time.
Yeah, like how quick and ready. I mean, obviously there's a lot that still you could say, like, of course other people were treated as not human in 2,000 years ago. It's still happening now.
Right.
But
I think it kind of still carried. I mean, I understand like there are certain things that they were idealized, but I feel like he does mention points in his present that would kind of go with, and this is one of the things where I wanted to Google whether there was like actual slavery in Rome.
Yes, there was.
I was like, because that's something that like I don't really know about, and then I'm like, and I'm pretty sure there was, because obviously, right. But I'm like, was it more of like a not a feudal system, but like where they're at? Well, probably no. Okay, so there were slaves, and it was like who had slaves and what would they do with them and things like that was more of like my perception of it, because if quote unquote a slave for you have a slave and they're useless to you, you get rid of them. Right? Either you try to sell it to, I guess, pay for your losses, or like I don't know, you would get quote unquote rid of it. So I'm just like, sorry. So then like I feel like that kind of thought would lead itself to like, oh, this person is a homeless person, they don't bring any good or whatever,
Yeah.
so why not just lump them in with whatever else they
Yeah,
do?
clean up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's like, it seems relatively reasonable for me, like for me to
In that context, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me save you from that.
Yeah.
That seems pretty reasonable to me.
Not to me. But like in
the
that context of
Rome.
like Rome
Yes,
in the
of
whatever year it
a
was,
civilized state of
and the way that
barbarians.
he like I was like, in the way that he was explaining things, like, I don't know, that's the kind of people, or at least himself, the way that I read him is that's how he comes across to me.
Mhm.
And like the same thing with like women only being mentioned once, and I still can't find that quote of how like men should be following for, it's something similar to honor, but it's not honor. That's not the quote. It's something close to honor, and like what would be
I'm really trying to scrape my brain for it, and I'm not remembering it.
Is it something with a D? Ooh. Okay, women are just meant to deal with loveliness, and men are supposed to deal with it's honor, or like not destiny. Another D word. Not determination. I don't know, something along the lines of like to make yourself a good person. Whereas like girls should just look pretty, kind of thing. And I was like, if I already hated you, I hate you now more. And it was just I was saving a page so I could read it to you, and I forgot. But yeah, and it was just honorable.
Did you find it?
No.
Oh.
But he says honorable a lot, so
he does.
Wait, is honor honorable? No, maybe it's not honorable. But close enough. Like, men should deal with things about honor, and women should deal with things about being lovely. And I'm just like, that's stupid. And it made me think about like how there's a lot of writings from this time, but none of them are obviously like people of color or just like women in general.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think I remember any. Well, maybe we wouldn't know now, but it'd be like Cicero was actually a girl, but we don't remember. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's anything like that.
I'm not sure.
Or like
I don't think so.
Roman or Greek writings.
Yeah.
That I can like think of.
No, I don't think so, because to an extent everyone followed those ideas. Like that, and that's what Cicero thinks made everything work. That everyone had this innate obligation through nature or through learned that made Rome and Greece what they were. Of course, there's always an exception. Of course, there's always a dreamer, but they are not virtuous to Cicero.
No.
To others, they would be.
Yeah.
But not to Cicero.
Yeah. I mean, unless if they were to put those things aside, they could still benefit society.
Yeah.
Like Socrates and Plato, no one could touch them because they're just amazing.
Yeah, because they developed so many ideas and theories that like their contributions to the world gives them diplomatic immunity.
Right.
For whatever reason. But there's also like that layer of trust, is like because they are so great, they would never commit the atrocities.
And that's the thing where it's like, that's definitely like,
they understand their own obligations as it is, even though they can be considered untouchable. It's weird.
So it's like, as long as you're aware of your shortcomings, you can have your shortcomings.
Yeah. It's actually. What were we gonna say?
No.
Okay. That's like the only little bit of self-help that Cicero offers in this book. That you have a moral duty, a virtue duty. Like, you will never achieve happiness without having this. You should get to learn about yourself to the most extent possible. If you do not understand yourself, you cannot contribute to society, because then you don't know how you can contribute. Like, remove the society aspect from that. just he's telling his son, and we should always bring it back into the context. I forgot to do this already 40 minutes ago. We should always bring this into the context of how he's trying to help his son.
Mm-hmm.
He believes that his son should really get to know himself, experiment, and learn everything he needs to know about all of his peculiarities, which is a word I brought up before, and I don't remember if he uses peculiarities in this translation of the book. But all of these intricacies, everything that makes you, everything that's bad about you, everything that's good about you. How can you contribute? You're good at making metal and become a blacksmith, making metal. At bending metal and become a blacksmith. You're good at cooking, become a chef. How can you contribute? Everyone has a purpose, is kind of what he's bouncing around,
right.
Except for those who don't. But except as everyone has a purpose, asterisk, except for those born without any.
Right. And it's not you can't find your purpose.
No.
Oh, and this is where another thing where I was like, Cicero would hate me. First, me being able to read. Second, being able to read and having opinions.
Yeah. Scandalous.
D, not following into societal norms of what pretty technically is in our society, in the sense of the majority, seen on not social media. What is it called?
Yeah, I guess social media society. Yeah.
But also more the thing that I think is more not quote attacking me, but I feel was I'm not. If Cicero were to rate me on the good to bad, useful to not useful, he would put me on the not useful side, because his main point is figure out who you are based on figure out who you are based on the information you know about yourself. Choose whatever either career, however you can assist society in the best way. Where I'm okay, I know I'm me personally, I'm I know I'm good at these things, but I'm gonna do this thing because I think I need to strengthen that thing, and that can help others. And he's well, you fucked up because you're better at this thing.
Yeah, there's
so
someone
you should
else
do
that
this
will be
thing.
better at that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm no.
Yeah. Cicero really likes roles.
He does.
He loves roles.
He does.
He likes labels and he likes roles, and he likes exceptions too. Well, it's not. He's aware that every rule has an exception, but he really, really makes a point of the exceptions.
Yes.
Where it starts to stand out, but you should be aware that every rule has an exception, and he's just he just likes commenting on all the exceptions.
Exactly. And he's and I'm allowed to do this because I am self-aware.
Yeah.
And I have my role, and my role as father is to lead you and guide you to what it is that I can do, I guess, for you to help society. And I'm just and that's the thing. Also the other thing, it's for the most part, he's okay, you have to follow in your parents' footsteps until you realize that you can do something better than do that. And it's I don't know. It's just very interesting that someone who has all these thoughts and ideas of how you should live your life wouldn't just tell their child to figure that out, rather than being no, you should follow in my footsteps. So if I know you're learning all these things, but you should also listen to me, kind of thing. And it's is that selfish? Is that gonna help?
No, not to him.
I was is that selfish to society? Because it's he's learning. If Plato and Socrates are all these giant, huge, put on a pedestal kind of thing, and you're down here, why are you still? Well, I mean, I guess by your own logic, it's why are you still talking? Why are you trying to tell your child what to do when it's why don't you just tell them go read these people because they're amazing?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, actually, he does address that. He thinks they're too idealist. It's he believes in practicality.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually expressly. He only believes in practicality.
But that's the thing. It's
and it's not practical advice. None of it is.
No, and that's why it's
except for a couple, but they're not the times he reads practical is when it feels like fatherly advice.
It is, and it tends to be oh, I know. Well, it's this is my opinion. Yeah. This is what I think you should do, kind of thing. And I feel if this book were just that, it'd be a pamphlet.
Yeah.
And I'd be I feel I would as a child, I would relate more to that than you being telling me all of these words, and then you're still telling me I have to go figure stuff out. And I'm So, and I get like he's trying to create like critical thinking in his son, but his son is also going to the super prestigious school.
Yeah,
That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just like, okay, so is this more of like a Addie situation where it's like, I just want to leave part of me with you? Or is this like in of itself trying to be like a good thing? And I mean, I guess since he shared the letters with society, now it's technically a good thing, but if his son had read them and then shred them to bits, like...
Fuck you, Dad. It's not a phase.
It's not a phase.
I'm not staying in Greek. Oh, wait, I am staying in Greece.
Yeah. I am staying in Greece, never going back to Rome. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. It brings up a lot of, like, good points, but I feel like those good points tend to be common sense now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, were they always common sense? Or is he just expressing them as if they weren't common sense? Because, again, like, a lot of our written knowledge is because it's written.
Yes.
So not because that's not what it was back then.
True.
So it's like,
True. I feel like it's also the role of him as a father to make sure that you never forget the common sense. It's easy to forget common sense. Common sense is not common. It's a saying somewhere. But the common sense isn't common. So him reminding him of things that are common sense is also probably his duty as a father.
His duty as a father.
Like, don't forget. Like,
but he doesn't say don't forget.
No.
Like...
Yeah, he never says don't forget. But, like, it's the idea of it, right? At least to me.
I think it's more of, like, my difficulty with, like... I don't know. I don't know if it's, like, an ego thing or if it's, like... He's like, oh, it's because I'm your father and I know more than you, that I'm telling you how you need to do these things.
There's also a bit of ego. Yes, he thinks he is the biggest of it. Well, he thinks he's the moderately biggest of shits. Because he's aware that he isn't the biggest of shits.
It's like, he's like, I'm not a Plato or Socrates. I need to have a job.
I am a practical man, yes. I work in politics, but I am not the politics.
I don't know. But yeah, overall, I think there was a lot of things that I was reading and I could technically translate them into like hypothetical situations in the current day, but then I'm still like his like framework of like how he would put, I guess how he would weigh his options is very like, I don't know, it has too many contradictions.
It does.
Yeah.
He contradicts himself.
A lot. I'm just like, I'm trying to follow you. I'm trying to be on your level, Cicero. And it's like, why? What are you doing? Just be one way.
Yeah. He's trying to create something too practical. And in itself is too idealist.
Yes. Yes, it
is. There is one thing that I think he does get right. And it's only right because he's stealing it from Aristotle. And it's his views on courage.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
It's courage and fear.
Courage
right?
and fear.
Yes. Okay, I do.
Yeah. To be afraid is to be, funnily enough, unvirtuous. But you should have fear within reason. A fireman should be afraid of the fire, but he should still go put it out, as he is the fireman.
Right.
And courage lying between two extremes, a concept created by Aristotle himself, to be rash and to be thoughtless is not courage.
Right.
Anger is not courage, even though they are both impulsive emotions.
Right.
Courage does not come from thought, it comes from impulse, but there is a correct way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. Anger is the same thing, and anger is always wrong according to Cicero. But that's also part of the Stoicism, because he is a full absolute follower of Stoicism.
For sure. And he mentions a lot of like, you should just ignore all of your emotions. Or maybe not ignore it, but just be like, they should not exist.
Rein them in.
Yeah.
Use prudence to guide yourself to correct the right thing.
Exactly. Which I think is very interesting in general too, because he's doing what we call it in the field as trying to be eclectic and like trying to combine a bunch of different things. The word is not like fitting in my brain, but he's putting things that are slightly like diametrically opposed and trying to like mash them together. And like to an extent they work, but when you like read, like look into it more, it's like these don't make sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because it's like if you're I'm also mindful of who's gonna listen to this, and I'm like I lost my train of thought.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That was really all I had to say. I feel like that's the only piece of like fatherly advice that he gave. That sounds very stereotypical of like a man to man son. This is what courage looks like, and like he is like it's. And his, I don't remember if his examples involved a soldier, but that's an example I heard. You should be afraid of death.
Yeah.
But you should not be afraid to be in the battlefield, knowing that you can die. You are a soldier. That is your thing to do.
Right. And I mean,
yes,
that works on various levels because of like who they are and like their expectations of continuing their legacy. So you have to be a soldier. And if you're just useless and can't even be a soldier, then what are you doing to aid society?
For instance.
Cool. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah,
so the law of nature itself, which preserves and protects the interests of human beings, certainly ordains that what is vital for life should be diverted from one who is idle and useless to one who is wise and good and brave. For the death of a wise man will be a great loss to the common good, always supporting, that is, the self-regard and love of self do not exploit this ordinance as a pretext for committing injustice. In this way, the good man will always fulfill his obligation by taking account of the interests of society and the fellowship of the human race, which I so often emphasize. Crazy. So it's like, yeah, if you're idle and useless, just kill yourself. So another person.
Right. And here's the, we can start bridging it now.
Okay.
Here's the bridging point. I think Cicero, every single person in history who made a deal with Luke, Cicero approves of. Because they are using their own axis and peculiarities.
Okay.
And their own self-acknowledgement to perhaps exclusively artificially, improve their self-worth, but to do so within the realms of they are trying to help someone, or generally a ton of people. Beethoven trying to create music that will be remembered forever as masterpieces and that people will study and learn musical theory.
Okay.
Joan the Arc, who is known as a legend.
Rather than a martyr.
Yeah, rather than a martyr. People that have left an imprint in history as a way to teach and learn and to fight for something. And then we get Henry Strauss and Addie LaRue. People that are inherently selfish. So I guess here's the exception. So Cicero would think everyone is so good.
And I think that was like, I mean, that's fair. I think that's
Napoleon was also a.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Napoleon was also a receiver of Luke's power in the book.
Not in real life.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah. And Napoleon does get even now in history, Napoleon is not treated like Hitler.
Right.
Napoleon is treated like, and even Alexander the Great is treated like Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
They're treated like things to remember. The people who left a lasting impression, who were part of the Revolution of France and did all these things, even though the Revolution of France is extremely violent.
Yes.
Even though the empire that Alexander the Great started, extremely violent. But Cicero would be like, yeah. Look at them. They're just thriving.
You're thriving, and look at everybody that knows about them.
Yeah, so. Look at everyone who's learned from you. Look at all the things you've helped develop.
I think there's a word for it. It's like something of caution, a cautionary tale, where it's like even if they didn't provide good, quote unquote, like, well, me quoting, good to society, they're a cautionary tale. So it's still providing a source, helpful thing to society by telling other people what they shouldn't do.
Right.
Whereas like Addie and Henry are just like, nah, I'm just gonna focus on myself.
It's gonna do me.
Just gonna do me, and I just want to be loved.
I just want to be loved
or remembered.
And I want to be. She wants to be remembered after she's immortal. She wants to live.
She wants to
She
live
wants
life.
to live
yeah.
life, which could mean which at the end means everything. She wants to do everything.
She wants to do everything for as long as
And
she
she
can.
will always have something new to do since she is
Mhm.
immortal. It's
As times change.
she really gave up a lot to be remembered, in my opinion.
That's
Especially
fair.
because she gave up the biggest piece, her own
Switch.
bullet,
Mhm.
her own switch.
But I mean, if you go along with that idea of like, she will always have something to look forward to, there's no need for a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And technically, she could be her own bullet by being a terrible person. Well, terrible to Luke, so he's just like, alright, get the fuck out of here. So as long as she keeps him happy, she can continue doing whatever it is that she wants to do. But as soon as she's like, you know what, I technically don't want to be here anymore, I can just make you miserable, and then that will make me leave. I think that's where she feels like she outsmarted him, because she still has the quote-unquote potential to kill herself if she wanted to.
I don't think she does anymore. I think that now he has won everything. Because now he can make her suffer.
But in what way?
In any way he wants to.
But like in what way?
If she ever... If he... Let's say he already owns her. So he doesn't no longer needs her.
But he already owned her.
Yeah.
That's where she's like, I think that's where she's going with it. Like, he already had me. Now he doesn't have to wait as long. And it's more of like, she technically loses if she was not ready.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by also making her decision, she's also kind of ready to, like, if he kills me at this point, I'm fine with it.
I guess.
But I'm going to extend myself. I'm messing with him in the sense of, like, keeping him happy so I can keep living.
I guess.
But I don't know.
It's the polishing of the book her winning. I guess it is.
Because in that case,
she's be remembered at least by some people forever. Not forever.
And Henry's always gonna remember her, and he can probably tell his children, if he has children, about her, and she will turn into a legend.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Maybe she already did.
I don't know.
She won in the way she wanted to win.
Yeah, I was like, I am just hopeful because all men are. I'm just kidding.
Oh, he's not a man.
I mean,
he's personified as one. It's fine. Yeah.
I'm like curious as to, like, I know she mentions it that she's curious about like why he chose that form, and obviously it's because she likes that form.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so if she had imagined another girl, would he have taken a girl, or would he have still taken a guy?
I think he says he takes like
the form that they
form that the form that the person sees is what they see. So Beethoven saw someone completely different.
Right.
Joan d'Arc saw someone. Although he did say he flavors himself in some ways, but they all kind of see what they want to see.
What they want to see. That's fair. I don't know. Wait, Beethoven before or after blindness? Because then how is he going to see it?
I don't know.
What if he was already great and then he was blind and then he was like, now I still want to be able to make music, so then that's when he did his deal.
Maybe he was when he went. I don't know actually, but it obviously was later in his life.
Interesting.
But maybe it was after, like, he was losing his sight and that's when he made the deal.
Other question that is, oh yes, whose curse would you choose?
Oh, neither. God.
You have to choose one of the two.
Do I still get? No, I wouldn't.
Okay,
I would
the
not.
the only stipulation would be you wouldn't die in a year. So you have the same on-off switch that Addie has.
Yeah.
But you either are not remembered or
always loved.
Yeah.
Always wanted.
Always wanted.
Not really
not loved.
Yeah. Right. Huh. I would take Addie's curse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that I could relate to Addie of, like, you just gotta see everything. There's not enough time to see everything. You gotta learn everything. She's a polyglot. That's amazing. And she just did it passively. Like, she's just like, you know, like, it's like of course she studied the languages, but like she just knows them all now. Like, it brushes them off like rust, and then she's reading Greek and she's reading German, and like, yeah, it's all amazing to have that amount of time. And since I'm immortal, where I choose to eat because I want to eat. Granted, I would also feel hunger pangs and stuff. Like, her curse does not make her immune to everything.
And I
think maybe just sickness. I don't think she ever referenced at a point where she got sick.
No. Yeah, she had perfect health, but she would still feel like
she feels every mile walked.
Yeah.
She feels every mile walked. She feels hunger. She feels tired. She just
doesn't die from. Yeah. So I guess technically she could get sick, but she wouldn't die from it. So then she can have a cold.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Because with that, I
think
guess
she has perfect health.
I think actually that would make more sense because it would be harder to explain the like, okay, a bacteria is living within you kind of thing. And I was like, that. Yeah, I was like, no, that's gonna get too technical for this American woman writing this book.
Yeah, no, I think she has perfect health.
That's fair.
Which is still pretty big.
Okay.
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, no, you gotta answer. This question can't go one way. Which one would you take?
Which one would I take?
Yeah. Are we immortal buddies?
Probably.
Except we wouldn't remember each other. Every time we meet in Spain in 200 years, and it's like, hey, nice to meet you.
Oh my god, that would be terrible. No, we'd also have perfect memory, so we remember, be like, hey, weren't you here like 200 years ago? And be like, yeah, we were. It's like so weird that you're still alive and still like looked exactly the same. Oh, and that was the thing that I was.
You didn't answer.
What? Oh no. Yeah, I would choose Addie's curse.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like I already have a terrible self-esteem, so imagine like having other people being like, you're so amazing, and I'm like, you're just lying to me. You don't even know who I am. Like
the curse would have been lessened if he didn't notice the haze. But since you do, it sucks.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I also feel like it's not like you're not self-aware. So he was self-aware to know where his limits were, but obviously, like when it was super obvious that the people were just like liking him because he looked whatever, that hurts less than being like, oh, hey, person that I've known for 20 years, what do you think about me? Something that's completely not you is a lot more like a harsher reality. But yeah, I would probably go with Addie's curse just because
it's a good one.
I think it is, especially really having the off switch. It's and like not that it's like
it's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's such a big deal
because most of the time of like having to give up your humanity for immortality is like you don't die.
Yeah.
So you're just stuck, and in this case, it's like you're technically stuck until you're not stuck.
She sells the curse pretty well. I think, like to the point where I feel most people will take her curse over Henry's.
Yeah.
Because she even overcame madness. She says it twice or 3 times in the book. She went insane. Like, and you would. I mean, she's still human-ish. Right. She's a social creature that cannot be social. She was
human-er before, and then she went bad, and then she's less human.
She went insane. And she, even with enough time, you also overcome madness too. I think that's verbatim, but it might not be.
Maybe. And just like other people's deaths and everything. It's like you live long enough, even though you remember everything. Like it's still a fraction of whatever time you were spending.
Interesting, actually. She forgot Estelle's voice, which means her memory is not as in. Oh no, but that's pre-immortal. That's right. Never mind. That makes sense.
Yeah.
She does not remember. No, she met Estelle as an immortal. No, that is. It's interesting that her memory is not as infallible as she claims it to be. If she forgot her voice about 100 years later, like any normal person would, you eventually forget the voices of those who pass on and you can no longer talk to. I'll forget a face of someone I met once in like a month. Like,
I wonder if it's like.
So her memory, while she claims it to be basically perfect, or maybe just her experiences and not
like
some like amazing recorded memory.
Okay.
Like a video recording.
I mean, it could also be that like maybe it is video recording, but it can still be distorted, right?
Like, okay. Fair.
Like, so there's like a bazillion people's voices, and you're like, this one is technically Estelle's, but like there's so many things that when you're remembering the thing that you're remembering, like it's technically not the same that whatever your memory was. But I don't know. She's immortal. I don't have information on this. Okay. Aspiration for leadership. That was something else. Let's see. Okay, I think the one that you mentioned was that one. I was like, what did you think of the ending? Helpful but like lackluster.
I hated the ending. I did not like the ending of Addie. I forget like the little like last 2 chapters are just Henry describing that like, yep, I wrote the book, and like the literal ending where it's Luke and Addie in London 2 years later, seeing the book being published, and she's like, I remembered, and then like Luke slides it. tangent, but matters because we're near the end, I think.
Yes.
There's 2 instances of how the author describes like Luke coming behind her
And
like
pulling her into the darkness.
Yeah, no.
Oh, no.
Just like it's describing. Now I don't remember the wording. Not like leaning into weight. I understand what that means. It's like she's falling back into him, but like it's something about the shoulder, like hugging behind the shoulders or squeezing something shoulders. Where like it's like you mean where he's like hugging you from like this? What I'm getting at is like, is Luke hugging you like this? So there's a head right here, and he's like going like this because that feels weird. Like,
I think that's a couple things.
Isn't it? Yes. Wouldn't it be better to slide in around the hips?
Oh, that's true.
Like, and one more comfortable than doing this, assuming that their height difference isn't that big.
I was like, maybe their height difference is
like,
that
that's
big.
like a 2-foot difference, though. I don't think their height differences are supposed to be like huge, because I feel like in no scenario would if a more couple-ish imagery, because Henry does it too. The author uses it a lot of like someone coming behind her and hugging her over her shoulders. Like, why not the hips? Why not the waist? When it's supposed to involve that imagery of like.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just like a like.
No, I don't think it was.
No. Like, yes, they're hugging him or hugging her, but she's not. Not that she's not tall, she's thin. So technically, it goes around her shoulders, but not like on top of your shoulders, like right here. Me pointing to my
we've done so many movements in front of the microphone.
It's great. It's whatever. It's fine. No, yeah, but like arms around here rather than like on top. Like he's not like putting his arms over her,
like I always assume
over her
that,
head like a shirt.
There's a point where like his arms cross over basically above her chest, and like they're kind of like this, but like I feel like it's awkward.
It is.
Instead of like.
I'm just being
going over the hips or over the waist.
Fair. I mean, but a lot of her writing I got a little frustrated with, and I think it was less when I was listening to the audiobook and more when I was reading it. So when I was reading it, there was like certain phrasing that she would use over and over and over and over again that I was like, dude.
She does repeat herself a lot, like including the
Yeah, and I'm like, I wonder if that's because it's like Addie or if that's just her style. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know either. Like I haven't read more of her books.
True, I guess, but I feel like that's not. I feel like that might just be her writing style at the moment. At her time, I don't know if this is her first book. I don't know if this is her like most recent book or like third book or like.
So I looked when I was going through the Goodreads. A couple of them talked about like they didn't really like this book, but they liked more of her other books. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's not a new writer.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't think I know much about her, or other than that she wrote this book. But my sister and I went to Barnes & Noble's and she got one of her other books, so I'm going to ask her how that goes. But I don't know. Yeah, some of the phrasing I was just like, this is very repetitive. And then she talks about certain things over and over again. I'm like, bro.
It's the only excuse she had was like, oh, Henry wrote it. Classic Henry. Right, I was like, yeah, bad Henry wrote it. Classic Henry, bad at everything.
I think I focused a lot on Addie, but I'm like, would Henry have a moral obligation to use his quote-unquote superpowers for good? Because most of the time...
how can he do good with that? Convince things of his own? Convince anyone of whatever he wants, of what he thinks is right. But what if he isn't right?
I mean... I guess it's like finding being, I mean, it would be the same for Addie
Yeah.
because, like, I mean, she's 300 years old,
Well-
so I hope that she would have, like, some foundation of what good and
There are some things that you have to know, or
Mhm.
like she was helping the quote unquote right side,
Mhm.
like World War II, for instance. One is committing genocide of the
Right.
mass variety. The others also pretty bad, including Russia.
Right.
But like. One is clearly a larger evil
right.
against humanity. One of them's burning books in libraries. The
Mhm.
other, yeah, also killing people. But, you know, at least they didn't burn a library and killed a
bunch
lot
of
of
people.
people.
Um,
Just on belief alone.
yeah.
Yep. Like, there are some things, like, yes, Addie probably did have a moral. And I think it alludes that she did.
Mhm.
She did try. She did try.
I mean,
but we don't know to the extent of how much did she help.
That's fair.
And also, who was she helping sometimes?
That's also true.
Because if she was always outside Europe, then she might have been. Well, no, France lost on every single turn, I think. But, well, obviously, France lost on both world wars. But,
Mhm.
like, for instance, the American Revolution. I think she was in France. I think actually around the dates of the 1770s, I think she was in France. So clearly she wasn't like helping with any of that.
Mhm.
Or the idea of like perhaps it doesn't have to be so violent. Or
Mhm.
maybe the Americans do deserve their liberty and let me try to like get this paper to King George or like I don't know. She's not participating in society.
Mhm.
Which upon talking about it, I do think she has more obligation than I gave her credit for. I 100 because I thought about it too. I was like, does Addie have an obligation? I don't think she does. She exists outside of society, but no, she found the gaps where she does exist in society.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what about Henry?
Henry. Henry has to do his own thing, and this is gonna look horrible, but. I mean, we already said it before. Cicero would have told Henry that he is not useful to society and that he is better
continue to walk off the bridge.
He is
the roof.
better off jumping off that roof.
Crazy. Wait.
But he would have also pushed blame on his parents. He would have like Cicero wouldn't just blame one person.
Okay, but if sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but in the terms of like taking into account Addie, technically Henry's existence caused Addie to interfere in human affairs. I was gonna say, if they had continued to have a relationship, do you think that would have been enough to warrant Henry's life and not be completely useless?
Does his life have meaning if he left more of an impact on Addie?
Mm-hmm. Because he did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Maybe it wasn't him directly, but it was his existence.
I don't know. I feel like this is applying it too much to fiction.
That's fair.
Because
it is.
Because it is, but like I don't know enough Cicero. I don't.
That's why I'm like I read this, but I read it really quickly.
Right.
So I read it in like the last 2 days.
Right.
So I'm like I understand enough to be able to like talk about it, but I don't know enough to like go like really deep into it.
We also couldn't, not from just on obligations. Literally, he did this entire humble brags of like you should read the Oratoria and the Republic and
like
his entire collection of books is probably useful to understanding Cicero. Yes, his actual philosophical treatises and not just, like, his letters to Cicero Jr.
And it's like it's one of those things that sometimes I forget that like I think I don't know how much in Rome, but like would they write letters and then stop writing letters and then continue writing letters at a different time? So it's probably, so one letter actually takes like 3 months of his time, and so in this case he's like I don't really care about the contradictions more so than like me mailing the shit out, or is it like one of those things where it's like he's rewriting this over and over again until he gets it right, at which point I would be like, okay, no, you don't make sense. So I feel like I would credit it or like analyze it and at a different level based on like that information. Yeah. So like for sure, like his other stuff, it's like you did that. Yeah. You sat down, wrote,
edited, wrote again,
exactly.
edited. Yeah.
And like that's a final copy, right? Versus this that could potentially be a draft.
First draft.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know. I would have to read his other stuff.
Moral of
Which
the
is-
story: we both have to read more Schwab.
and we're because then it's like now we know what kind of author she actually is, rather
Yeah.
than if like we're just giving her credit
We're
for
just
a
giving her
bunch
a
of
bunch
like
of shit. Or giving her a bunch of shit.
Or a
It's like,
bunch of shit
she's
for-
just repeating herself
Yeah.
too many times.
Yep. I don't know, but
Look at that's the reason we started the podcast, to read more.
yeah.
Or for me to read more.
For me to read more too, be able to talk about it. Oh, this is like the other bigger one.
Yeah.
Does Addie change in the book?
No. No, she doesn't. Well, no. Okay, hold on. What do we mean change?
Okay, so my follow question that actually, the sentence following that question that I decided not to say was like, and I quote, like really, she accepts loss of humanity and is willing to give up another soul so quickly, period. End quote.
Yeah.
That's what I said to myself. Because it's like, there's this transition where in the beginning she like values humanity is like the idea that's presented of her, in the sense of like she like mostly tries not to do like bad things towards people, right?
Except for those things that you did that were bad, even as a mortal woman, like praying for the death of someone.
Oh right,
Yeah.
but she like felt bad about it, quote unquote. Like I guess.
But is that just becoming numb over time, or
I mean,
just?
And like I guess my point was like that was a thing that she regretted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, oh shit, I didn't know that they were gonna kill him.
Yeah.
But I still need to do this to serve myself,
Yeah.
right? Whereas like when she offers up the deal to Luke for Henry's life, he's like, all right, so I still need a soul, so who's am I gonna take? And she just points
Yeah, he
this
points to
dude
the
out.
dude, and
It's like that one.
yeah, I mean, even Luke's like, wow, you have changed.
Yeah.
Or whatever he sounds like, I don't know.
He sounds like a 50-year-old
I would-
old guy in your version.
Speaking of, I would love to read the book if it was all written in the languages they're speaking at that given point in time.
Interesting.
So it starts off. The thing is, it doesn't work since Henry's writing it.
Yeah.
It would, of course, it would all be in English. But
Henry,
like
you
Henry,
have
the literate fool, works at a bookstore, has never read a book in his life. Crybaby asshole. Actually, it's not true. He was under just getting a PhD. He's very literate.
Yeah, he's literate. He's just
very
a little
literate.
slow.
He's just a little slow. Very literate though.
Yeah. He worked at, well, I guess you don't have to read to work at a bookshop, but he enjoyed working at a bookshop, so I guess.
Yeah, well, he knew the books. Like, he
Yeah,
clearly
too.
read.
He was like, oh, he was able to identify Greek.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you took the Odyssey, but why is it in Greek? Like, okay.
Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah.
Addie changing in the book.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Way different tangent. Love to read the book that starts in French and then goes into Italian, then goes into English. Anyways, she changes in one way, and one way only.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think she ever had. I think she was selfish the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she suffered a lot. She did, but she was always selfish. She always only worked for her own self-interest. In a way, she only had that choice.
Mm-hmm.
Or that choice was robbed from her, so she leaned into it. But even before that, she only did stuff for her own self-interest. We talked about it before. She never helped herself. She never helped her parents. She never helped anyone. And then she wished for the death. She didn't care what would have happened, but she was still probably really happy that she didn't have to marry that year because they died.
Coincidentally.
She did not change in that aspect. She's only ever worked under self-interest, and she only got worse for that. The one change she did become is she stopped being a dreamer. She stopped. I feel like she lost that passion.
Of like finding new things?
Finding new things. Now she focused more on leaving an imprint than finding new things.
That's true.
She inherently changed as a character. Where she was not tired of learning new things. I'm sure she always liked learning new things. She experienced so much of the world and she realized there will always be something new. So I'm living my best life. But she stopped caring about that and started caring about how can she leave an impression.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think it was after she realized that she could leave an impression that became her like whole thing. Right? Because like when she was like is it Renee? What's his
Remy.
name? Remy?
Yeah, or maybe it was Renee. Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, R
It
Frenchman.
wasn't our Frenchman, young man, Cool. Oh, that was a really sad scene when he just gave her the coin. Ugh. Anyways.
Yeah, the 3 presses, she remembers that too. It's meant to be remembered.
Yeah.
Pressing the
Oh!
3 coins
The
into her
3
hand.
coins into her hand. I think that was another thing that it was like, she does struggle, and like she goes through various different like traumas that like influences her to be a certain way. But anyways, that's super random tangent. Where was I going with this? What was the question?
Did she change?
Did she change? You said.
I don't think
Oh
she
yes,
has.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. You
Aside
said
from
that.
one thing. Yeah.
Aside from her focusing on her being able to
Yeah.
leave a mark rather than.
Than seeing the elephants.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was a pivotal point because he was like, as soon as you have ideas and you can write them down, you leave them for other people. And then she was like, oh shit, I need to learn how to read, how to read these ideas so I can, I don't know, just like be able to understand how other people are leaving their legacy.
Yeah.
And then just figuring out ways for me to do that in my own way. Because I think it was only after that like that date that she started having those like not necessarily messing with like artists, but being like inspiration, being like a muse figure that she kind of took upon herself to do, so she could leave some kind of little imprints, even if they were not like super impactful. They were like still her, and I think that's where it started. Because prior to that, she was still living just like, and it wasn't even living of. I mean, it also depends on the time because she was pretending to be like a man in that era, but she was still too pretty to be like recognized as a man. Yeah. And I was like, that's a whole other issue of like pretty privilege. That like, imagine being like Quasimodo and then being granted eternity. Like, you're not gonna live the same life.
Right. Right, like Addie to feel something usually just had one night stands. Not that she didn't fall for. She ends up falling in love with those people to an extent, and they never remember her. That's her pain. Quasimodo will not get that benefit. She will not, because she at the very least knows she gets in from her looks, and then once she's in with her looks, she sells them with 300 years of stories. Like she's the idea of charisma, like in every form. But she gets in with her looks.
Right.
It is a bit of pretty privilege.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty privilege.
Yeah.
Like Quasimodo would not. They'd be like, "Oh, you're alive? What? Like, what are you doing?"
God damn it! Yeah.
I feel like
he would have to make it till now just to feel accepted. Like he would have to go through a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's why it's like I feel like this book, if it were different characters, would also explore a lot more like social justice-y stuff. But since it's a very like Eurocentric kind of like characters, it's very straightforward in a way. I'm like
egocentric. They only care. Even the god only cares about. Why would he care about anyone else? But like, it's like, why is he so human?
Yeah, it's like it's because she's hot. Yeah. Obviously, has nothing else to do. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, so yeah, I agree. Where she doesn't really change much. Her value of people is still the same, I guess. Or I guess no, her selfishness is still the same. Technically, she did do an act of selflessness when she bartered her switch, as we're calling it, for Henry's like soul. But I think it is technically could also be said to be self-serving because he's only going to be there for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And
she wanted the period. She wanted to have a period, and she had her. She forced a period. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because it never says. Well, I don't remember the stipulations. I don't know if she said that she would never talk to him again. Because easily he could be like, reach out, like, oh, hey Luke, let's go see Henry. I don't know. That sounds really awkward, but like it's a possibility. But she was like, nah, I'm already done with this. Like here, he's gonna do what he's gonna do.
She wanted her goodbye, and she got a goodbye.
Yeah. So it's like, technically he got a good deal by like being able to live for the rest of his life with no power,
but like.
But I mean, again, like it goes back
that
to
book gave him purpose. which kind of helped him out.
And it's like, it's again, the Addie being involved with him kind of reminded him that he has worth. And so that being said, like, even if he has depression, he is now aware that he has worth. So he's going to do things to minimize his depression in order to be able to do the things that he wants to do. And having the book is one of those things.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Crazy. Someone just crashed. I'm kidding. But yeah.
Cool.
I don't know.
I think
that's it.
I think we managed to talk about mostly Addie with some Cicero in there, but like it makes more sense. Like I feel like that's going to happen more often than not. It's gonna be hard for the difficult book to.
So I wonder if we should do the difficult book first,
and then
to bring out like certain themes that we want to talk about in the easier book.
Yeah, that probably would be best. We can do that next time.
Okay, because then it's like most of the time, well, especially because I read Addie first and I read the Cicero.
Yeah.
Like, I was just piecing how Cicero fits into Addie instead of how Addie fits into Cicero.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think if I had read it backwards like you did,
you would have done it like me. Yeah.
Yeah, like you would have seen perspective of Cicero in Addie and being like, oh, okay, this ties into this ties in, this ties in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I think that works. The book you chose was You.
Oh yeah. Whoever's listening to it now, You, which I can think of one friend who has already read You, so I wonder what he'll think. But the easy book for next time will be You, the hit Netflix series, but also a book first.
Book, novel by You. Book. You, a novel.
You a novel. You a novel.
Oh god. Interesting.
You know the worst part? I don't know how to end it.
Hold on. I still have to give my book.
Is this your reveal? Because I don't even know it.
I don't even know either.
What do you? You don't have to reveal it now.
People. I don't think. Hold on. Maybe I need to find it. You. Great. By who? I don't know. Do you know who it is?
No.
Do you know who You is by?
No, I don't know who You is by.
Okay, You book. Novel by Caroline Kepnes.
All my hard books are going to be easy. Because I'm just rereading. I'm rereading every book I read in college.
Oh gosh.
So shout out to Great Text. Specifically Great Text 2. Shout out, I'm gonna send this to my professor. Shout out to Dr. David. I would never. I don't know. He'd be like, "That's not what Cicero was about at all."
Right.
Did you learn nothing in my class? No.
He's like, no. I was a young impressionable boy.
I wasn't reading the book.
I read the Spark Notes.
It.
Actually, I should have done that before coming in. Like, in that time that I was, like, sitting, I was like, I should have read the Spark Notes, and I probably would have had more to say. Okay. Also, thank you to San Antonio Public Library's Libby for letting me read this book and having it on audiobook format for the last, 4 weeks. Actually, I read it pretty fast because I gave it to you, immediately.
You read it. You said, wow, I didn't know this was 500 pages. 2 days later, maybe 3, you're like, I just finished Addie and I gotta talk about it. And I was like, we haven't even solved the books yet.
Fair enough. Okay. I need to get, a plot of this and I can find my book.
Oh, I can give you a plot synopsis of You without,
Alright, sell it to me.
I'm not sending it to you, just tell you what it's about.
Okay, what is it about?
Because you have to read it no matter.
I mean, yeah. But, make me want to read it. Use your Cicero or orator skills.
Imagine.
Oh, that was another thing. I forgot.
Dragons? What?
No, Cicero's orator skills. He's always talking about,
Yes, to be... Yeah.
Yeah.
He's talking about how good he is at...
Orator? No.
Orator.
Orator.
Yeah.
My tongue is not
To be a
working.
good philosopher must be to also be able to express
ideas and
your
thoughts.
ideas
See, he
concisely
would
and
hate
clearly.
me.
You imagine if Henry Strauss was um, not depressed and just an absolute egomaniac. Okay, let's start there.
Fair enough. Oh, I don't think we addressed that question. You were like, who would benefit from like his curse, and be like, artists, painters, all these other people, self-centered people who think they're amazing, so they just want to be amazing.
I think I'm amazing. I would never take his curse.
But it's not that you would take it; it's about it would benefit you.
Yeah. But God, it's also like that affects your ego. Is you selling art because you didn't convince them of it? Some other god convinced them. You're like what you want to do. Like I don't know. It's Henry's curse is absolutely a curse. He got nothing out of it except literally just death in 1 year.
Fair enough. Anyways, explaining. You.
Imagine the protagonist is Henry Strauss, but an absolute egomaniac, no depression, very confident in himself, and he is obsessed with a woman that walks into his bookstore and just decides to basically force his way into her life by making it seem natural artificially.
Okay.
And all that means and all that he does to preserve that relationship. It's very I've described him as being an incel god.
Oh my god.
It's what every incel wishes they could be. Because he is wrong the entire time. He believes that he deserves this love and attention when he doesn't. But he forces his way in because he knows how to do things. He's a very like he is unrealistically smart. He is unrealistically charismatic. But he doesn't deserve any of that. And that's what You is about. His obsession with this woman. And everything he does to try to preserve that relationship. Every absurd thing that he does to try to preserve that relationship. Because he believes that they are meant to be together. It's his own ego that's affecting the lives of multiple people. That's You. Not you, but that's You.
Okay. I get it. Whatever. Okay.
And you know it's good because they made a Netflix series on it. The Netflix series also did pretty well. But I think the difference is the book covers a lot more perspective on the girl as well. I think the series really just focuses on him.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel like my easiest... No, that's too easy. Like my easiest hard book that I can imagine right now.
It doesn't have to be an easy book.
No, I know. But
hard book.
Like easiest to thematically like connect to is attached, like attachment in general. But I think I want to find something that's more like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't answer that.
The what?
Is Addie experiencing Stockholm syndrome?
I don't know.
Yes.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah, so I think.
Yeah, actually.
She brings up something similar. It's like I don't know when the change happened, and maybe Luke had a point. Eventually, every stone erodes, and I stopped being angry. I was like, it feels like Stockholm syndrome.
It is. It's like because he's holding on to all of the potential of connection. He's the only person that she can connect to on any kind of level. A, being like knowing of her curse. B, being able to say her name. Like C, remembering her. So like everything else is like she's disconnected from humanity or like society in general. So it's like, yes, he literally slowly convinced her to love him, even though like, well, maybe not like intentionally, but.
I think the actor for the protagonist called Joe Goldberg also has black curly hair and green eyes.
Oh my god!
I don't remember he has green eyes, but I think he does have black curly hair.
Okay. Crazy.
Or brown. Different, whatever.
Close enough. Dark hair. Hard to say. Okay. I will look into it. I thought it was going to be that one, but I don't think so.
Choose whatever you gotta be. That was the reveal that she doesn't know. How do we end it?
How do we end it?
I don't know how to end this.
Oh, okay. So, that was our book discussion.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. No, I think that pretty much wraps up all of the stuff that we've been taught. Like all the books. I think we gave a decent amount of information. So if you know of the books, you can follow along. If you don't know of the books, maybe it was enough to pique your interest. Although you know all of the spoilers, so I don't know.
You know the major reveals for Addie, yeah, but we didn't talk about any of her leading up to 2014. Not really, which was also really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you could form your own opinions. Like,
that's true.
is Addie and Henry's
fight us? We want you to
fight us. You'll lose.
And I don't.
You'll win her. You won't beat me.
I was like, yeah, I will.
I will die on all of my hills.
I will bow out way before he would. But for sure, if you do read Addie or Spark Notes on Cicero, just let us know what you think, whether you disagree with us or whether we start rambling in certain parts, and tell us where we read something wrong, or if you don't like tangents and to like quit our shit and be better. That would be cool too. I guess feedback in general would be good. But next time we will be talking about you. Looks very intently at microphone.
I don't like how you looked at me when you said that.
What do you mean? I was looking very intently.
Oh no.
Anyway, and we will have undisclosed book B. If you are gonna listen
Actually,
to.
I want to be book A. Oh, what? Anyways.
You are book A.
Is this book A? Wait, what are we talking about?
You is book A.
Oh no, because I thought we were gonna do the hard book first.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
so we're gonna undisclose book A and disclose book B. You. I guess depending on who you know, based on who's reading this or listening to this, as we talk about this, you will know the title. So either Andres will let you know if anyone cares to ask.
I probably won't even
or if you're listening to this and you know me, you can just ask me and I will let you know what it is. If not, it'll be a surprise, just like this one was. But I think that's it.
That's it. It's cool. I'm gonna end it.
So
Goodbye forever.
see you later.